Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Come on in, sit on down. Welcome to another Truth at Therapy session, episode 71. My, how the time has flown. Now, for those who are listening to this live, I know I am late, but I make no apologies. I was dealing with family stuff, which always comes first. But I'm here now, and I do have an announcement, kind of an emergency announcement I want to make as well. Before we get into our guest today and we get on with the actual interview and therapy session itself. A brother in Christ and a good friend of mine, Tala, from the Kingdom Within YouTube channel, reached out to me asking... My apologies, I have the video playing in the background. I haven't made that rookie mistake in years. Anyway, back on point. Kingdom Within and Tala from that channel, he reached out to me and he's in a bit of a crisis. And just for some context, this is his channel. He's been in the game for longer than I have, talking about the Millennial Kingdom theory. He's made some amazing work on this over the years. He's been in the game so long, and honestly, he's one of the trailblazers for this topic, I would say. You know, making videos 4 years ago on this topic and so forth. And I was lucky enough to be on his channel, and we talked about the clowns, and obviously he's been on my channel as well on a Truth or Therapy session about maybe 8 months ago now. And I joined his Discord channel, some amazing people on there. He has amazing community and amazing ministry, real fellowship, real strong, God-fearing brother in Christ. And he reached out to me, and it unfortunately, he's only quite young, but due to severe illness, he's obviously out of work, and he has a family, a wife, 4 children, 4 girls, and he is currently homeless and seeking social housing through Section 8 on a wait list. But until he gets that housing, he is living in his car day to day, in and out of hotels in any way he can, basically. And as a community, we're useless if we're not going to help each other. This is what we do this for, okay? So he has sent me links and ways you can support him, and they're in the description of this video. So please, if you can spare anything at all to help Tala and his family and just get him off the streets, get him in a hotel for the night. He was honest with me. There is a B&B which he would be able to get for all of his family for 2 weeks, which would obviously see him closer to waiting for social housing to be given. And they would cost $1,200. I believe you Americans call it $1,200. We don't speak like that in England, but if that's what you need to hear, $1,200 would ideally get him there. I've contributed as much as I can already, and luckily I think he's managed to find some accommodation for the night. But if you guys could spare anything at all to help a brother in Christ, one of the good ones, one of those on the front line here talking about the truth and what matters, somebody who has helped hundreds of people and thousands of people with his own ministry, he needs our help. So please, if you can, follow the links down below and donate anything you can to help Tala. I would greatly appreciate that. So, on with the Truth of Therapy session and the show. Today I've got a guest who had me on his podcast to talk about the clowns. I think a lot of people nowadays maybe forget that I do talk about the Nephilim clown thing, if you haven't seen the adverts, if you didn't already know. But on the rounds we're talking with Ryan here, I had a great conversation with him, and I don't think it's actually been published yet on his channel. I do have it on mine ready to go whenever he decides to publish it. Maybe I'll release it while I'm on paternity leave as like a backup video or something when I don't have time to record anything. But it was a great conversation. He had a really chilling, excellent, epic opening, which I was really impressed with as well. Like a video he created as like an opening video. And the conversation was different from the usual conversations I have, because I felt like we got a bit more interpersonal. And we covered some ground we wouldn't normally cover in a Nephilim Clowns interview. So I said to Ryan, you've got to come on my podcast. Let's have a Truth or Therapy session together, and let's share your story too. So Ryan, can you hear me? Are you there?
I can hear you loud and clear. I am here. Thanks for that great introduction. That was quite the blessing. Thank you.
No problem. No, thanks for being here. Thanks for being so patient with me as well and waiting. We're running, like I said, we're running a bit of an hour late due to issues, which I'm not going to go into, and I won't apologize for. Family stuff always comes first, and that's what I've been dealing with. But I'm here now with you guys. And so how have you been since the podcast? You've been busy. You've been talking to a lot of the big players in the game, haven't you? From where I remember you telling me. Yeah. What have you been getting up to in I think the month since we last spoke? Who have you been talking to?
So, well, of course, Gary Wayne. I speak to Gary Wayne. I've had a plethora of guests, and I talk to like all sorts of people, all sorts of experiencers, and people who are researchers such as yourself, who have written books on the Nephilim and everything else in between that. So, it's been some a lot of people, like Brad from the Awaken podcast as well. He's a great friend of mine. Me and him, we continually, talk back and forth and share ideas and whatnot. But yeah, it's one of the bigger ones was Gary Wayne, and he's, I was re-listening to that episode, and he talks about, the Nephilim, and of course he brings up himself that, like some of them had these white pasty faces, like white as bread, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what you are saying as well. Of course, you go into more depth about exactly their looks and whatnot, and and I find it kind of peculiar because growing up, when I grew up Catholic, and I had this, kids book of the Bible stories. You're looking at David versus Goliath, and Goliath is just this picture of this bigger man, giant man, and
Mm.
in my mind, that is the picture I've always thought of the Nephilim until, I started looking deeper, and especially, with your stuff, Paul. It's like, no, they're creatures, they're grotesque, they're, terrifying abominations, and it's kind of really opening my eyes to a lot of this, and it's very intriguing, and I never knew I would go down this path of this ancient biblical history. But it seems to be that that's where it's taken me. Like I started. I had another podcast with another co-host, and we started just talking to just plain experiencers through Bigfoot, Dogman, and UFOs. But now that I've started my own, it definitely seems to be, I'm going more into these. I don't know, ancient mysteries and biblical histories.
It always leads to the biblical history. It doesn't matter how you get into conspiracy, that's where you end up, inevitably.
They're all tied together. It's all tied, and that's one thing I've also noticed is that, we have all these camps. You have like, oh, the UFO alien camps. You have the Bigfoot. You have they're all these puzzles, and they all think they're separate, but in fact, they're all parts of one larger, bigger puzzle.
Mhm.
And you start to look into the Bible, and you start to realize that, there's answers in there. There's the truth in there, and it's amazing. Like, and I know you said we wanted to get into, like how I came to this, maybe, or something like that. And I find a lot of people follow the path I've taken, where I was brought up very religious, in a Catholic household. I took part of the church. I participated in it. And then I hit a point where my questions were just could not be answered anymore. The priests, like I never really went to the priest to ask the questions, but it was kind of like, asking my parents and other people, and they're like, no, like they're just scratching the surface. We just stay at the surface of everything. We're not going to go in depth, such as, the Old Testament goes in depth. And with that, then I started seeking other answers. And so I found my way into the New Age world, where I know a lot of people do that, and I went into there, and I found, I found a community, and I found, light and love, what seems to be the only thing that goes around there. But then I just, after a couple of years, I discovered that it's like this quagmire. It's this quicksand that holds you in, and it's the only want to look at one thing, this light and love. But if anything is dark or evil, oh no, just send light and love to it. But I'm like, no, because there is a battle that's going on, and we have to, know thy enemy. We have to know who they are and what they are. And so through all that, I found myself coming back, and because like back then, you're talking about, instead of saying God, you're like, oh, source and creator. But now I'm back to this, God, and I want that relationship, that I'm kind of made that choice now myself. It wasn't like this choice that I had before, and it was kind of like, this is what you should be doing. But I walked away and found my way back, and with that, I'm always seeking answers. I feel that we're explorers at heart. We're, as humankind, we always want to explore. And, that's why we had so many people jumping on ships and finding new land, we'll say, because we're explorers at heart. We want to discover. But now, well, allegedly all the land is found, but but now it's like, what else is out there? Okay, well, there's all these mysteries that have been hidden from us, that have been, obscured from us, have been, just taken away. And it's kind of like, that is the explorer that I feel that I am now. I'm that one that I want to find this. And I also want to give a platform for people who've had these experiences, who can contribute to this, and we can explore this together.
So when you first kind of discovered, or first started to explore, shall we say, and you discovered the dark, nefarious underbelly of reality and the people and societies involved with purposely trying to distract us and kill us and send us one way or the other and indoctrinate us with degrading of society worldviews and all the rest of it, all the horrible stuff. How did you deal with that when you first discovered all that kind of thing? What was the process?
Well, and this is what I say a lot of times on my show, is there's a death of self. So there's part of you that has to die, because, and it's a very sad thing. It's very difficult, because you're so used to, this way of life, living in this box, and everything is perfect, but you got to like rip that Band-Aid off, and part of you has to die to, for the new part of you to grow, and it was very difficult. Like I've always questioned, but I've always questioned this at the surface level kind of thing, but I've never started really going deeper and deeper into the underbelly, until I was doing some work for this one gentleman who was a prepper, and me and him got along smashingly well. And he invited me to go shoot his AK-47 at the gun range and all these other things. I'm like, okay, this is cool. Okay. And then he started saying, you should watch this show. You should check this out, and one of the first movies documentaries I ever watched was by Benjamin Stewart, called Kymatica, and it was a bit of an eye opener for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the start of what I've always wanted. And then I looked into Loose Change as well. It was kind of like learning these deep secrets, and seeing, like, the mainstream media, because when things happen on mainstream media, I used to believe it all. I'm like, oh yeah, they're telling the truth. That this is real. But then you start to see the truth for what it really is. And once you see, you cannot unsee. It's there's no going back. It's kind of like the Matrix, when they said, oh, I want to be put back in. Sometimes I want to be put back in and just think that I'm eating, just living this great life and everything's normal and great, but it's not, and that's what knowing that there is this out there, like knowing that there's this evil out there, but there's always balance, that there's this goodness out there as well, and I applaud that. It's kind of like, yes, there's God out there, and there's us out there, but one of the things is we can't sit back and just think that, oh, God's going to fix this all for us, while evil is out there actually, putting their foot to the pavement and going and doing stuff. We ourselves have to be out there and doing stuff as well to counter it all, because for good to succeed, we have to be part of it. We have to be doing our things out there. And I will say, sometimes I find myself sitting on my butt, not doing anything, but there are times when I've been out there, and spreading the truth. And I feel that that's what we're doing as well. Like, this is part of that process, I feel, is spreading the truth and allowing people to see the truth and give it to them, but also not, I don't want people to say, like, I'm not saying, believe me, I'm right. No, what I'm saying is, open your eyes to new possibilities, and then do your own research and look for it. Find the truth for yourself. Be the arbiter of your own truth.
Well, just by being here and doing this, we're setting an example that it's actually okay to talk about these things, and you're not crazy for questioning narratives, and it's actually the normal, sane thing to do, to not blindly follow authoritative figures and what the box in the corner of the room tells you is true. And I think in the past, maybe pre 9/11 or in those early stages, I think that was a big eye opener for a lot of people, to be honest. But prior to this, it was the norm that you listened to the 6 o'clock news and you got your daily programming download, and you all went along with it, holding hands, saying this is the the thing we're going to all believe collectively. And it's kind of, if you say anything against it, you're like a fly in the punch bowl. You're ruining everything for everybody else. Just shut up, carry on, keep your head down, you know. And it's kind of people like us were literally ostracized from society. It's kind of, you're a crazy nut bad conspiracy theorist. Shut up and go back to your little corner and keep it to yourself in your bedroom. It's kind of, we're not interested. We don't want to know. But then it's kind of like we were a loud minority for a long time, and now I think we're the mainstream. I think it's going the other way. I think now it is the norm to actually completely say, this is all bollocks. I'm not following the lies anymore, and you're not crazy just for seeing the obvious in a way. And this is, I think these things help. Podcasts like yourself help. And as like I say, I didn't realize until I published the book and started doing the Nephilim clown thing. I became like a niche topic all the podcasters wanted me on to talk about, you know, and I didn't realize just how many conspiracy podcasts exist. Like I saw a whole new world in front of me, you know what I mean? And there's hundreds of them, hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of them. And I'm getting like my for the past year and a half, my calendar has been fully booked, 2 shows a week on podcasts. And, you know, I've shared most of them on my own channel as well if you want to go see it. But it's there. And I kind of gave me hope in a way, because when I came back to YouTube in like 2023, the start of 2023, after a 5-year hiatus, I thought it was dead. I thought conspiracy was dead. You know, I thought like, oh, it's just not what it was since all the mass censorship of 2016 and then the next round with all the, you know, the thing that went down. And it's kind of, I don't think there's like, I thought there's no way people can talk about these things online anymore is what I was thinking. Like, and all the big channels I used to watch in 2016 before in 2018 were gone, and it's kind of, I don't know where they are anymore. But then when I came back and started talking about the clowns and building this audience and then was invited to these podcasts, I was like, oh, so we are still around. It's kind of, things have just, where we are has changed a little bit, and YouTube has just been taken over by I don't want to say controlled opposition, but weak truthers. Let's say that, you know what I mean? More conspiratainment, entertainment style conspiracy rather than people actually trying to make a difference necessarily. But then, like I said, hope was reignited when I saw just how many podcasts, anyone with a microphone. I didn't care how big the podcast was. I went on there to talk with them because it's the dialogue, it's the example we need to start setting, and it's the encouragement. And yeah, I'm glad you're along for the journey. It's been a hell of a ride so far, and I think there's like a revival happening right now, which I think we're on the forefront of, and I'm very happy to be here, to be honest.
I agree totally, you know, and it was, you know, when I watched 9/11, I remember driving into work and it was happening. We went to a coffee shop and we sat there, watched it all, and I ate it up. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. I started to question things a little bit, but still I just believed it all, you know, and it wasn't until watching some of those documentaries where it was like, you always thought there was something off, but you're like, that's what they told us. And when I started watching those documentaries and seeing like, okay, this doesn't seem right. And it's like, yeah, I remember watching the video of the plane hit the Pentagon. And I'm like, we all knew it wasn't a plane, but then the story was it was a plane. And it's like, no, that's not real. But again, I didn't really jump on it until finally, you know, like I said, that one truther, he sent that to me. And then a big awakening, though I was kicking and screaming, was when my daughter was injured by a vaccine, and that was another huge eye-opening for me. My wife dove deep into that world, and I stayed back. It was for a couple of years before I finally, you know, really started embracing it all, and like, okay, yeah, like this is things aren't what they seem, you know, things are much. Yeah. And so when that came around,
that thing happened.
That thing happened, you know, we were prepared for that. Like that was the only thing that I say I jumped on a little bit was I could see the pandemonium coming. It was like a wave, and it was coming, and it was because I was living in Canada at the time, and it was kind of going from the west to the east almost, and so I saw it happening in Vancouver, and I lived in Calgary, and I'm like, I need to go stock up on food and everything else. So I went and bought everything about 2 weeks before everything was like going crazy. So I bought a lot of food, you know, staple items, and I just stored it, and was ready for that. And then when it happened, you know, we were okay. Um, we never we never got sick, and when we did, it was just a bad cold or
Mm.
bad flu is what it was.
It's a
And
chesty cough for me. I got something like a
yeah,
very lung heavy cough. I suppose is the best way to describe it. Yeah.
and I had a sore back and sore neck, and a
Mm.
headache. That was the biggest thing for me. But other than that, we were out protest. I was out protesting, marching every weekend,
Mm.
and we were fighting the lockdown by, we had these underground groups getting together and being a community is what we did. I think that's a big thing, is being a community. And
Mm. Brave.
yeah, and yeah, it is. We'd meet outside, we'd meet in houses. We'd
Mm.
park a little bit of ways away and walk into the house, and just we weren't allowed to do it, but yes, we were.
Well, this is the
We
thing. It's easy to go out there and protest some nebulous, unstoppable, fake nonsense force like let's fight climate change or something like that and hold up a
Yes.
placard. But when you're actually standing up against the current thing that everybody who's indoctrinated is 100% behind and believing in, and you're going to be dubbed a genocidal serial killer for not going along with the program, that's when it
Mhm.
really counts. That's when standing up against the narrative actually matters,
Yeah.
So
Yep.
good
And
for
we
you,
were like, yeah, it's like, face to face with Antifa and
Mm.
everything. There was some confrontations, some fights. The police actually were secretly kind of backing us. They knew, most of them knew. Like, some of them were assholes, but
Mm.
for most part, the police were supporting us, and they'd be like, give his little thumbs up and kind of going, give his little like it was, that they were there because they had to be there, but they knew that this was bull crap. And
Hmm.
so that is kind of like my conspiracy life. And I just been intrigued by all these ones, and there's so many rabbit holes that you can go down. There's so many things, you
Hmm.
know um but also, then there's the other side, is like all the paranormal and the crazy stuff that has happened in my life. I feel that it's kind of like, I can't talk about being this host if I don't shed the light on that. I've had a life full of strange occurrences and strange events
Well, let's go into
as
that
well.
then, shall we? So let's start with your first paranormal experience that kicked it all off for you. What have you got to share with
Well,
us?
the one that I can remember like clear as day was, I was probably in around grade 8, and I had to go. We lived on a small farm, and I had to go feed the horses. And I was working up in a dormer in my parents' bedroom where we had the computer. We only had one computer because that, we're that age. And so it was dark out at this time. It was around October, and the sun was it would get dark. So it was about, mm, 7, 8 p.m. or something. And my dad called out to me. He's like, "Hey, Rye, have you fed the horses yet?" Because that was one of my jobs, one of my chores. And I'm like, "No, I haven't." He's like, "Well, you got to go feed them." So I left. And as I'm walking down the driveway headed towards the barn, I could look back up in the dormer, and I can see the computer sitting there. We had some big windows, and there was someone sitting at the desk, and it looked identical to my grandma. But grandma was alive,
Mm.
just to clear that. But it looked identical. I could see from like the waist up, maybe from like the abdomen area up, and it was my grandma. And I was, so of course in your mind you're trying to make sense of it. I'm like, well, it's got to be my sisters or my mom or something like that, because grandma's not here. So I ran down, fed the horses, came back up. And the reason why, one thing I was a little more over concerned as well, is because I was writing a journal, with my private thoughts and whatnot. And so I came in, and my family was all downstairs on the main floor, watching some sort of award show, whether it be the Grammys or the Oscars or something like that. And I said, "Who was upstairs?" And they're like, "No, no one's been upstairs." And I'm like, "No, no, no, no. Someone was upstairs. I saw them. I saw you, And it's like, "No, we've all been sitting here." My one sister said, "Well, I went to the bathroom, which is on the main floor." She's like, "But no, we've all been sitting here watching this." And so at that point, I was, okay, something is going on. I made a mental note of it, but you try to make sense of it. And that one, I couldn't
Mm.
really make sense of it. Fast forward a couple of years. I'm about 18, 18 years old. And I I was I had gone out with some friends and wasn't drinking or nothing. We went to one of my friends' place. We rented a video game console and we're playing some video games. And they drove me home, and I had to work early in the morning. So I I remember staying outside that night before I went in the house, and it was a cold, crisp night, and the northern lights, the aurora borealis, were out in full force, and it was like,
Mm.
wow, it's beautiful. So I go inside, and I'm trying to fall asleep. I'm trying to because I'm looking at the clock, and I'm like, if I fall asleep now, I have 7 hours and 23 minutes to before I need to wake up. That's a full sleep I get, and I just kept clock watching because I couldn't fall asleep, and then finally at one point I had this, I don't want to say message because it's not like someone said, "Hey, do this," but it was like this feeling, like this persuasion to you need to look up. And so I rolled onto my back and I looked up, and floating above me, I could see a head, shoulders, neck, body and torso of this blacker than black entity.
Mm.
When it came around the torso area, around the waist, it faded off into actually a white wispy smoke. But this black entity, like clear as day, I can see this thing floating above me, and that's scary enough. But what really caught my attention was the eyes. So the eyes were glowing red, not like flashlights, but like an incandescent glowing red, and
Mm.
it was one of the most terrifying things probably the most terrifying thing in my life that spurned me to really follow this path that I've went on, because there was nothing I could do. I laid there, and there's an expression, to be scared stiff. And now people have said, well, I think you had sleep paralysis. And I doubted that before. I was like, no, it wasn't like I was awake, but I don't know. I truly don't know. Like I was awake, and I was paralyzed. So
Mm.
we have that theory. It was there for about like 5 to 10 seconds, and then it disappeared. I laid there, I don't know for how long, and then the next thing I know, I woke up in the morning, and I went on my day, but this has never ever left me. This is something, and I was talking. I don't. Yeah, Vicky Joy Anderson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was talking with her, and she says, like people who have these experiences, some people are like, oh, it's just a dream, but a dream doesn't change your life and affect your life so, like immensely as like this event, like to this day, that was what, like 20 some years ago, and it's
Mm.
still with me to this day. And it caused me to walk a path that I never would have gone. Like I sought out a shaman. I trained under a shaman for over a year. A medicine woman taught me for a couple of years. I became her firekeeper in a sweat lodge as well. And it was because of that, like this event, that I went that path, because I was I was tired. I did not want to be afraid. I wanted to be able to be like, no.
Hmm.
And no one told me that I could call it the name of Jesus Christ or anything like that. No one told me that. So I went this route, because, and another thing is I wasn't talking to anybody about it, like, because if you tell people that you saw this thing, they're like, you're going nuts. Every time I post something, let's say I post something that I've had or experienced on Reddit per se, people are like, oh, you should go to a psychiatrist, or
Yeah.
or you had a seizure, or something like that. They're all medical experts, but when it comes to these events, it's like, no, this is something that truly happened. And you don't want to be ridiculed, but I'm past the point of being ridiculed. People can say what they want. It's like, I know what I experienced, and I don't care if you don't want to accept it.
I think if you did tell your story nowadays to the right audience, then everyone would be quite receptive, because
Yeah.
I've said this myself, even in my own book, and it's a line I'm quite proud of, because it kind of just came to me in the moment. But it's kind of, look, there isn't one single human being alive that has not experienced demons in some way, shape, or form. They might not
Yeah.
talk about it because they're scared they're going to get ridiculed. But every single person in existence has encountered these things, because you can't exist on the earth without interacting with them, because that's just the way
Yeah.
the world we live in. They're here with us simultaneously. It may be slightly hidden in a smoky black haze of some kind in certain scenarios, and the veil may be thinner in certain circumstances than others, but everybody will encounter the demonic, and we shouldn't be ashamed to talk about that. It's kind of, because as soon as you can start the dialogue, other people then will feel brave enough to say, the exact same thing happened to me. I'm not crazy, and it's not crazy to talk about these things. So your story, I'm sure, will inspire many more people to come forward and share their experiences, because it's always the same. And I've had sleep paralysis, shadow entity experiences. I've had the Hatman experience as well. I don't know if you talked with Vicky about that. But he's kind of like the leader of the shadow people or something. We don't quite know who he is, but he's a prominent figure in shamanism. Copy him quite a lot. The hatted, robed entity as the shaman or the channeler or the orchestrator of the spirits or the ancestors, shall we say. And trippy stories, scary stories, because it is, people don't understand. I mean, maybe if they haven't had that kind of right there in front of you, a demonic being, a type of encounter, I don't think people really understand just how shocking that can be when you haven't prior thought about those type of things or something like that. It's a shell shock feeling. It's trauma. It's purely traumatic, because it's kind of, not only are you encountering the unknown, which is scary enough as it is, but it's also your entire paradigm is crumbling right before you, and you need to kind of process it, and that takes time. And like you said, you do end up seeking answers in the spiritual realm, and there is this catch. There's this net out there ready to get you in the New Age realm. It's like, yeah, come work with the spirits, learn how to channel them or something like that. You know what I mean? And that's usually where people end up, isn't it? Like yourself. But then you realize, I don't know what your experience was in the Sweat Lodge. Maybe you can share this information with us. But was there much luck in getting a decent defense from these things within those teachers? Did they teach you anything useful?
Yes. So I'm still friends with that medicine woman, and she incorporates, like Christianity with spirituality. So I think it was a good mesh of that, and it kind of bridged that gap for me. And that was where I moved forward past it into, and I still, work with her quite often, like not work with her, but, talk with her and keep in contact. Like I consider her my second mother pretty much. But it's kind of like, working with Jesus and it is very, very important. It's integral within this. And so it's kind of bridging that. The Sweat Lodge was kind of like, yes, it's moving up to another level almost. You put yourself into a place where you're being stressed. You stress your body so you can elevate the spirit, and that is, I think it's a good way to like move past all your physical and move into your spiritual side of things. And I believe that if you bridge it, it can be bridged. And I think that's important, to know that there is that bridge there. But it's the ones that stay in that area and they're like, oh, we're just working with these spirits. I'm working with these spirits all the time. And I'm like, well, who are they? Who are those spirits that you're working with? Well, they say they're this, or they say they're that. I'm like, well, they can say whatever they want, and that's one thing is like, the Ouija board, everybody's like, oh, I use it as a tool. I'm like, well, who's on the other side? If they say it's your grandma, well, they know the things about my life. I'm like, well, so can a spirit who's sitting there watching you and knows what you're doing. It's you got to be careful. And it's like, I listened to this one bishop, and he was talking about the Ouija board, and he's like, it's a form of possession. You're allowing a spirit to come in to possess you, to move your hands, to move the planchette. And I was like, and I was against the Ouija boards, of course, but then I was like, oh my God, you're right. It's like this next level. It's like, it's something more than just talking with something on the other side. No, you're inviting them in to move your hands. It is a slight form of possession.
I think people do forget, don't they? And maybe not forget, or don't really know that we are spiritual beings, whether we're in the flesh or physical or not. We are a living soul made by God, and the physical and spiritual world are not actually two separate places that are indistinct from each other. Like, they're actually the same place. It's just our perception of the spiritual realm is quite limited in our physical forms, but it's still there. It's still continuously interacting with us and us with it. And it's one wouldn't exist without the other. In fact, it is the same thing. It's like, you can't have every animal has two halves split down the middle, and you don't see half a dog walking around. You see the left and right. It's the same thing with us and our spiritual aspects. It is one and the same, and I think that's how God made it. It's perfectly normal. It functions that way, and I think humans are capable of doing spiritual things and having, like you said, these experiences where they're more in the spirit than in the flesh, through whatever means, and all these type of things. And I don't think there's anything inherently evil or wrong about any of these practices, which the New Age often get themselves involved with. But they've lost perspective. I think they don't realize that the reason it's dangerous to focus on those things and these tools and these methods is because we've been infected with demons. And you have enemies now who are on that other side, who are willing to manipulate you, use you, abuse you, lie to you, lead you down the wrong path. And when you do open yourself up through meditative practices and all these other, like, let's say, Kundalini alignment or whatever nonsense New Age term you want to come up with, when you do these perfectly natural bodily functions, you're actually playing with fire now. And there's a reason why God doesn't want you doing them anymore. It's because you'll just get demons. Like there's a parasite in the machine. We've got a virus. You know what I mean? There's an issue. We have a problem. And the only person who came to solve that problem was Jesus. And he was given all authority over them. And your weapon against them when dealing with spiritual things from now on is to know Jesus, what he did for you, and the power of his name, and the authority given to you over the demons through his sacrifice. And that, like I said, that gap I think is getting bridged more and more in the modern age, because I think a lot of people thought Christianity has nothing to do with anything useful. But as the spiritual experiences are becoming more prevalent and people are being more confident to talk about them, people are looking for the true solution. And it's kind of, well, you got to learn about biblical history, as you've been doing with Gary Wayne. You've got to start realizing where these things come from and what the story is, and to understand why you even need a savior. What are you being saved from exactly? Not only your own sin, which is important, and the judgment at the end, but also we have an enemy. We have an active enemy working actively against us in realms that are not normally perceived, and we are fodder for them if we're not otherwise informed. And I'll let you go. I've talked for a bit there.
Oh, no, that's all right. No, and I find that, like, the way you're saying is, like, when you're interacting with these spirits, everybody thinks, oh, demons and evil, they're going to come out like mean and everything. Well, why would they do that? It's all about getting your trust and then working their way in. It's kind of like, here's some candy. Oh, hey, here's another candy. Okay, now come in my van, kind of deal. What it is, it's the deceit, and it's, like, they're not going to cut, like, yeah, of course, that shadow demon that I saw, straight up, you could tell that was evil. But the much more deceitful is the ones that try to con you into believing that they are, like this, this loving, caring galactic family or something like that. And, but in fact, they're not. And that's when you run into, like when you're saying about the name of Jesus Christ, using Jesus Christ to rebuke things. You start hearing that more and more in alien abductions, and that takes into account. You're like, okay, so what are aliens then? Are they demons? Are they, the Elohim? Are they the Watchers? Are they, Nephilim? Where do they fit into this? But that being said, it's like, if aliens are, we'll say, the Watchers or along that line, I also believe that angels are in that category as well, but they're not going to come in and abduct you, because as soon as there's abduction, that's against your will. That is not something the angels will do. But I do believe that possibly some aliens are angels, whereas some are demons. And you have to, differentiate which is which by, either saying, if they're coming to abduct you, well, it's quite easy to tell what's going on. And if you're calling them out in the name of Jesus Christ, but an angel should not be abducting you. They should be coming to you without hiding their form, or, well, I think they do. Some of them do hide their form so they don't scare people, but it's, they're not there for.
Well, Gary Wade makes a distinction, and so do I. And we talked about what is the difference between an angel and demon anyway, because a lot of people do conflate the two to be the exact same thing. And I would say, okay, well, you're playing with semantics, really. Demon is a label we have given to the disembodied spirits of the offspring of angels who mated with human women. And we have this term called demon, which has now become a catch-all term for any evil spirit. Angels are spirits by nature, but they are shape-shifting and can take physical form. They're beyond our physicality or limitations in any way, shape, or form. They are literally manifest spiritual and physical simultaneously. They are in heaven and earth and through all the realms. They are advanced in that sense. So that's alien to us. That's a good definition of something alien when it turns up, an angel. But the angels had children, and those children had a physical form and also had powers. and may still even be around today in the cryptid phenomena in some way. You know, maybe Bigfoot's a long lost descendant of the Nephilim, you know, the Nephil and the Elio and the grandchildren's children's children of the Nephilim all the way down to today or something. But it's the distinction has to be made. Angels are not demons. They are angels. An angel's an angel, whether it's good or bad. It's still an angel. It doesn't matter. An angel is an angel. You can call it demonic in nature, but it doesn't make it a demon by definition. A demon is a name we have specifically given to the offspring of the angels. But it's one big happy family, and it's a hierarchical system of deceit and control. So the disembodied spirits now are demons, and they're mystical and weird and disembodied, and they can work with angels who are against mankind. So let's say the Watchers are a specific class of those angels, but a third of the angels rebelled. A third of the angels are in rebellion with Lucifer against all of humanity. So there's thousands, if not millions. We don't know how many angels there are. The numbers of the stars in the sky. I mean, imagine how many angels that could be, you know. Millions of angels could be working against us. And only a few of them mated with human women. But that they could have produced hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of offspring themselves who are now demons on the other side. And they all work with each other. And it's kind of... So if the angels are working on manifesting as aliens coming in starcrafts at some point or something like that, you better believe their children on the ground are going to manifest as the monsters who man the spacecrafts or something. I don't know. They're going to work together to create the illusion of, you know, aliens of all species and all kinds have turned up from an intergalactic federation of light, come to get mankind to join them or something. Just take this mark and you get to be one of us or something like that. You know, whatever.
Just take this mark, right?
Whatever narrative you want to spin from any Hollywood movie that's been telling you this programming for years. But it's kind of, I do believe, you know, when it comes to crunch time, the Nephilim or the demons will work with their parents, the angels, who will be posing as aliens, all as one conglomerate. And it'll be an absolute mess of a show, which is going to send people in all sorts of directions and completely shake up reality as we know it. Whenever they decide to play that card, they will play that card, you know.
And do you believe that, like, all this disclosure that is now happening, and this is what I believe, all this disclosure that is now happening is a precursor to this? It's kind of like this gentle introduction into this world for the rest of the people who... And I hate using the word sleeping or awakened or whatnot, but it's just the rest of the people who believe the narrative. You know, I feel that it's kind of like, oh, this is something we're really getting. And, you know, it's like, welcome to Bluebeam.
Yeah, well, people want aliens. They're bored. They're apathetic. They're sick of reality as it is. Everything's terrible. Like, everything's getting worse. Will aliens please just turn up and change everything and make something interesting happen for once? Life's mundane, it's repetitive, it's boring, it's miserable, it's debt, it's pain, it's suffering, it's loss, it's bad weather, and it's just a really horrible time. It's wake up, eat, sleep, work, repeat. It's just you know what I mean? It's like people want something to happen, and it's by design to turn up and change everything. And the banking on their saviors being whenever aliens turn up, I'm guessing subconsciously. And I think that people will be excited for that and ready to welcome them with open arms. And I think a lot of this soft disclosure you're seeing through subtle, like the Pentagon talking about, or like the government's talking about the cases of the odd UFOs everywhere recently. You know, they've been priming it up. You got this odd, or that tiny little paper mache alien they revealed from Mexico. It's kind of these little drip feed odd scenarios. It's kind of like that. Who knows what really happened at that shopping mall, you know, where all those people were filming and all those police cars were. It's kind of like all of it, I think, is orchestrated. The media is heavily controlled. They can make anything seem like it's happening with a camera, and they can lie and use CGI and any sort of thing. But the point is, I think it's a dry test run. How do people react? How much can we get away with right now? You know, are people ready for aliens or not? And it's kind of like, are we ready to go that far with our plan yet? You know, I think the testing things and I think the realizing, even if aliens did show up, we're so run down now. I think the result would be, oh, so what? I don't care. I'm still gonna go to work tomorrow. You know, I think like, people are over it. You know?
Exactly.
But that's the point, isn't it? Get them so apathetic about it that they could just reveal themselves and people wouldn't have a reaction. Because by definition, controlling people's reactions to that revealing and makes them more accepting. If it's not a shock, they'll probably just accept it and get on with things. It's like, oh, aliens have turned up. Great. Well, I've got to get to work, so I'll see you at 5. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
I got to pay those bills. I got to pay that mortgage. You know, it's
exactly.
like, okay, if the aliens could take care of that, then okay, maybe I'll pay more attention to them. But it's so true. It's kind of like they do these test runs where they try to push things a little bit further, then they pull it back, but they don't pull it back to exactly all the way it was, and then they push it a little bit further again, and they just keep doing that. It's the boiling frog, the water. I mean, the frog in the boiling water, in the boiling in the pot of water. That's my. That's what I believe. Everything is happening,
Yeah.
with everything. It doesn't matter with our aliens, and then with our, our lockdowns and everything. But I feel though, I will say with what happened, the last 4 years, I think a lot more people, a lot of people did buy into it, but a lot started to question. A lot of questions, but some of them still just went. And I don't know what's worse, the people who believed it or the people who questioned it but still went along with it, who knew it was wrong but still went along with it. That bothers me, is when, like people are like, oh, I really support what you're doing, but I'm gonna listen to what they tell me to do.
Mm. Well,
I know I kind of jumped I jumped I jumped the rails there on that one a little bit and changed the course of our conversation. But
no, well, yeah, there's a lot of people out there who do know the truth and are willing just to carry on eating the steak. If you want to do a Matrix terminology again, and it's easier just to keep your head buried in the sand and go with the status quo sometimes. And I think a lot of the programming is designed to be that. It's kind of like the people know they're being lied to, and we know they know that we know they're lying to us. But we're all just going to pretend everything's still going on as it should be because it's easier just to go along with the lie. And it's kind of, if they can convince the public and reveal themselves, and I do believe that's what it's called, the revelation of the method. It is actually a tactic used by the occult. We're going to let the people know we exist. We're going to let them know we're in control of everything, but we're going to do it in our timing, in our way, so they accept us and just get on with it. So it's kind of, now we can do things in the open rather than in the shadows, and the people will just let it happen, and in some cases think it's cool and want to join. It's that kind of thing, you know what I mean? And I think in a way they've kind of been doing that slowly. And
and that reminds me exactly. There's an old TV series back in the 80s. I don't know if you remember this one called V. Yes. And that was how it did. That they showed up with these big ships, and everybody, there were some people, there was the resistance, but there were some people who were accepting it, and they were so wanting to be part of it. And some of them, were the enforcers. It kind of was like, yeah, we're going to help you out, but we're going to kind of control you. And it's exactly like you said, like there's the people who join up because they think it's so cool, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to join up. But and we kind of saw that, I think, in the last 4 years as well. I'm not talking about aliens, but I'm talking about that they wanted to have that power. They wanted to have the power of control, of being able to control other people. You have, and no offense to people who are Walmart greeters or anything like that, but they gained this type of this power and this control over people entering into the store, and it's like no mask, no entry kind of thing, and it's like they became gatekeepers, and it was. It was a very eye-opening type of scenario. And sorry if I can hear that loud car going by. I apologize.
All right.
It was a very eye-opening scenario where, everybody used to always question. They're like, oh, what happened in Nazi Germany? That'll never happen again, because I would never follow suit. But we kind of saw that. In essence, we saw this going on again, where people were calling in people and being like, "Oh yeah, these people are having a party or getting together. There's more people in this house than there should be." Or it's like, yeah, I'm going to report you, and I'm going to do this. And it became this culture that history repeats itself all the time, unless we actually embrace it and saying this was wrong. But no, people just love it. And speaking of embracing history, I find that that's an issue with all these people wanting to tear down these old statues or try to forget the past, forget the history, like in the US with slaves and the South, these generals, they were fighting for this or fighting for that. But it's like, no. Why are you tearing that history down? We need that history. We should all acknowledge that history. We should never forget or disregard history, because it's going to repeat itself. It always does.
No, absolutely. I agree. And we're talking about the people who just love being given a little bit of power, and they eat that up, the government's behind them now, and they can do these evil things, and it's legal, and the government will back me up. It's like, you should be careful every time that kind of authoritarian power gets given to the people. Because like I said, I'd say maybe 70% of those who capitulated and did some of these questionable things, like calling their neighbors, they were scared. They did it because they believed their lives were genuinely in danger because of the propaganda. They actually genuinely believed that they were helping people, you know, and they were just naive more than anything, I'd say. And you know, you can kind of give them a little bit of grace. I'm not saying what they did was right. They should have got a backbone and done better, but at the same time, I empathize with why they did it. I understand, you know, forgive them, Father, if they don't know what they do type of thing. That's the level of Jesus forgiveness I give them, you know. But there's always going to be like a 30% contingent of people who exist in the world who are evil, who are narcissistic power grabbers, who will jump on any opportunity to become the authoritarian given the chance. And it's kind of an event like we saw gave those people that opportunity to flex that kind of authoritarian control over their fellow man. And they do it normally subtly in their day-to-day lives with their loved ones, friends, and family. And they have to be clever about it, you know. But in times like that, they get to put the boot over your neck in public, and the government's fully, you know, you have to be careful, and you have to be ready for those people. Those are the people we should always be worried about whenever any of these mass psychosis events take place. And you know, I highly doubt that's going to be the last one we see. I highly doubt it, you know, and who knows how it's going to go down next time, but be prepared for that. Those are the people we have to watch out for. Hopefully though, maybe we can taper the response this time by having these conversations and doing the best we can to encourage other people not to give in so easily next time, I suppose, because it was quite new. We've had it quite good for a while, you know. Most people have had it, right? And I think people didn't realize, because when was the last time we had a pandemic? You know what I mean? Like the plague.
I would say that would be the swine flu. There was the swine flu back in 2010, I think, or 2011. There was something like that, and people were rushing to go get the vaccine as well, which was also, that one almost seems to get overlooked. But then again, if we go back to, I think it was like 77 or 76, they had the swine flu again. But in that point, you know, 60 Minutes did a piece on it, you know, showcasing that this was all bullcrap, and they were talking to people who were injured by the vaccine as well, and they talked to the vaccine manufacturer, and the one guy was like, he wasn't well versed. You know, it's kind of like, you can see they train themselves now so much better to actually deal with the media, but at that point, you know, he was breaking under the pressure. But you know, we've had these little ones. I won't say to this degree, but it's these like little ones, kind of like, we're doing these pushes here. But to this degree, no, there was not. And
I remember, actually, you reminded me, going back in history here. Do you remember the whole Ebola scare as well? I remember that in like 2015, something around that time, wasn't it? And at the same time as all of that, the Florida zombie thing and the spice epidemic was happening, and like they had that man under the bridge in Florida who got shot.
The bath salts.
He got shot like 16 times and wasn't going down. He was running after you. And it's kind of like the whole zombie apocalypse thing was starting to like come up, and it's kind of and I look back at that now in hindsight, and I'm like, what a pre-programming fear prepping event that was for what came in the future. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, oh, if some mysterious disease starts spreading everywhere, zombies could start appearing. And it's not like zombies ever were going to start appearing, but it's that back of the mind programming of worst case scenario when disease breaks out. It's that kind of, and I imagine that programmer must have spilled out of people during the 2020 event, and it kind of all came forward as, we need to do something now, we need to capitulate with everything they're doing for us to save us, and it's kind of full lockdown, let's do it all. And if you don't want to turn into a zombie, do you? In the back of the mind, it's kind of always there. But I don't know
exactly. And there was also actually SARS as well.
Yeah, I remember.
Was that like 2002 to that, or
in around that time ago?
That was a long time. But there was a lot of these, and I thought SARS they started to lock down hospitals. I do recall that because my brother-in-law worked. He sold medical like replacement joints and hips and whatnot. So he had to go into the hospitals, and it was like full hazmat suits and everything. But that's the thing is, they actually did hazmat suits, not a piece of, not a dirty sock on your face and thinking that saves you from everything.
I'm also feeling like a lot of these ones we're discussing here were actually really bad scenarios where bad things were actually genuinely happening to people. And they didn't do what they did with this thing. They didn't have such a response then as they did with this seemingly harmless thing with an extremely low mortality rate. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of why the overreaction went towards the more harmless thing when we have these other outbreaks of far more serious diseases when they didn't have any kind of reaction like that. So you have to wonder, it doesn't make any sense, does it? Like when you think about it.
And this reaction, do you know what this like lockdown and social distancing, do you know where they obtained that information from? Like to do that?
We're going way back in time for this, aren't we?
No. This was from a high school student of one of the officials in one of the health officials in the U.S. She wrote and this is high school. She wrote like this paper of what they should do if there was ever like an outbreak of a disease. She talked about social distancing and said that they should do this, and this is what they should do. And they actually took her advice and followed that. That is the one. And again, don't listen to me. Go look this up for yourself. So everybody who's listening, go look that up for yourself, and you will be amazed because it's ridiculous. There is no scientific evidence to back this, and like we've moved away from herd immunity, which we all know is what solves this problem. Once everybody, like I believe it is. And it's even less than like 50% acquires, and builds a natural immunity to this, the disease starts to wane and go away. And this is normal, but we're not doing that anymore.
Well, isn't that what happens every season with the flu?
Every season.
Yeah, without fail.
But here's the thing though, is when does the flu start to pick up? It usually starts to pick up like end of October, November, December, January. Well, what happens around that time? So I know in maybe in the UK it's not so common, but like Halloween with a lot of candy, we bring a lot of sugar into the fix. And then after that, we have Christmas with a lot more sweets and candy as well. And that is like the larger time when our bodies seem to have a detox. So, but that's a whole other subject, is whether we're in a, is it a germ theory or a terrain theory? So that's
a good point. I've heard that recently, actually, the idea that, well, it's actually during a season when you're being the most gluttonous and you're having the worst possible foods and in excess. And heavy amount of sugar going into your system because it's the holiday season with the feast seasons, and it's kind of during that time, and also with it being colder as well, you're not getting as much sunlight, and a lot of factors go against you in that time period. And it's like no one everyone's ill. Of course, everyone gets sick. Like, and then when the sun starts shining again and winter, that time's over, everyone's going to the gym and exercising more, and then you're going to find there's a decline in illness and the rest of it.
Yeah, because everybody wants to get, it's springtime. Everybody wants to get outside and they want to get these exercise. It's like, I got to get in shape with my my summer beach bod, and that's what they do. My doctor that I had before I moved to Mexico, because that's where I live, is in Mexico. Before I moved there, I finally found a fantastic doctor, and he wouldn't prescribe medicine. He prescribed vitamins, and it was like, he called it the vitamin D hammer. He's like, if you're starting to get sick, take 10,000 milligrams of vitamin D for one day. And he says, and in combination with high dose of vitamin C or which is also ascorbic acid. And he's like, you'll kick the crap out of whatever you're facing, and you'll be fine.
I'll take that. I'll try that out because I've got an excess of vitamin D gummies for my toddler, which you give him on a daily basis. So I'll try one of them out. I'll take like 5 in a row next time I'm feeling under the weather and just see what happens.
Popping these gummies. You're like, I'm good.
Well, I'm actually, I have hemochromatosis, so I have this disease, this genetic disorder. You don't catch it. It's just in my genes. And I'm very unlucky because I'm like with the 1 in 4 people it activates in who have this predisposition, thanks to my parents. And it basically means I don't process iron. Most people use iron to make new blood cells and other things, and they get rid of it normally, and they don't absorb all the iron in the food. You have this thing connecting your liver to your digestive system called the duodenum, and normally that filters out the iron. Mine has deactivated, and it lets it all into my body. So I overload with iron, and my body doesn't know how to get rid of it. So what it does is stores it in your cells, and you have these little carriers in your body that basically get 2 iron molecules, and they move it around your body and find somewhere and just dump it there, basically. So it gets in your muscles, your organs, your liver, your heart, your lungs, and eventually you get filled with rust. you start to get toxic overload of iron, and your body gets damaged from rust in your body. And the only way to get rid of it is to have blood drawn. And it's the only cure. There is no cure. It's the only solution to get your iron out of your body. Because if you take blood out of the body, you're forcing the body to use iron stores to make new blood cells. So it lowers the deposits in your organs and then reduces the risk of damage. So I've gone through the whole process of weekly phlebotomies to get blood out of my body, to then get my iron levels down, and I'm now back to maintenance. I'm back to maintenance now. I'm no longer in the extremely dangerous, you're going to get cirrhosis of the liver if you keep this up for a few more months level, which I was, and they've done all the tests and scans, and luckily I didn't suffer any damage to my major organs. I'm still going to physio now because I've got some nerve damage in my neck going down my arm and things. But I'm at the back end of it. But one major thing I had, and they don't tell you about this, is I didn't just lose the iron out of my body. I lost all the minerals, the copper, the zinc, the magnesium, just everything. Everything my body had stored over the years. I had given pints and pints of blood, over like a 2-month period. Jeez. And it's kind of, the lack of all those other minerals has been killing me. Like, it's been awful. It's been horrible to not have the vitamins and the minerals in my body that you need to function. And it's kind of, it's good I'm no longer dying from the hemochromatosis thing, but now I'm extremely anemic and I need to get my iron back up and everything else back up to get back to feeling good again. So I've been going through the process of like having a massive vitamin regime and trying to fill my body back up with everything I've depleted. And I'm starting to feel better now. I'm getting there again, but like, wow. You don't realize kind of the importance of maintaining that balance in your body of minerals and vitamins until you lose them all. So you're like, and it's kind of, you don't realize how important like vitamin D and copper is, and zinc and magnesium and all these other things, and glucosamine for the joints and turmeric and all that. I mean all sorts of things, experimenting here and there. And I finally found the balance, and I think I'm coming out the back end of it. But it's kind of,
that's a hard go. Yeah. So I'm glad you're doing well, Paul. That's quite the experience, quite the journey you had to go through for that,
I'm lucky we caught it when I'm young. Most people go their entire life never getting diagnosed, and by the time they're 50 and get diagnosed, it's too late. They've already got all the damage and they're going to die in the next 10 years of like cirrhosis of the liver or something. I'm only 32. Yeah. We caught it when I was young. Very lucky. I have no damage, and now I'll never get damage because I'll always keep my iron low enough to never cause an overload problem. So I'm lucky. God,
so you don't rust.
I'm blessed.
You're not rusting from the inside out. Yes.
Yeah. And for people giving me unsolicited medical advice, no, I need to avoid iron-rich food, so I'm not going to go and eat liver, as Freya's telling me there. I have to be careful about my diet from now on. It's controllable and manageable just through diet, and I can have a perfectly healthy, normal lifestyle now. I'm in maintenance.
Perfect.
It's not an issue.
Diet is huge. Our food is our medicine, and I would say diet is huge. That's something that I know, but I need to practice more. It's like, I find that's the hardest thing. Is I know a lot, but it's like I need to put it into practice and actually do it. That always seems to be the most difficult thing to do. But speaking of rust, actually. I have to head out here soon, but I want to tell you one last experience, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And again, I got the most unsolicited medical advice after I posted this one on Reddit as well. I had an event recently in August. I was driving to a grocery store, and just a small little one here in Mexico. And as I was getting out the car, something started to happen. And I started to see something, and I started to see like these very intense lights. And that's where I'll jump to this, where before anybody else starts saying, oh, that's an ocular migraine. Okay. It something along the line of an ocular migraine, but it turned into more. So what had happened was it ended up forming into a tear in my vision. There was I would say like from here, it opened up and it went bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay. Around the outsides of it all was this plasma type of fields of like modulating and moving kind of this energy field. And it was in this tear, and I could literally see it. And again, everyone's like, oh, it's an ocular migraine. And I looked into an ocular migraine, and there were some similarities, but where it goes from there is I could see through this. Okay. When I saw through this tear, in my reality, I saw a old factory in behind, an old warehouse.
Mm.
It was the colors were like a dark brown rusty color. The floor was strewn with rubble. It was kind of watery, little, like it was wet, but there was these large rocks and rubble. And in very much into the much more background were these large industrial sized looking fans, and they were all turning in a clockwise manner. They were all turning clockwise, and they were, the most I saw was two stacked up on top of each other. They're like in a square box, and they're these big fans, and they're just slowly turning with mesh in the front, and two stacked up onto each other every now and then. The sky was also a very similar color too. Was this this, I was gonna say gray, but I mean like this brownish sky as well, very heavily clouded. And this vision of sorts last, and so I'm like, what is going on? And I'm walking back to the deli section of this small grocery store. And I'm trying to act as normal as possible, where I can't see the person in front of me. I can kind of see him behind them, either this way. And I get my stuff that I'm ordering, and then I go back into my car. I live fairly close, which and again, everyone's telling me, why are you driving? And I drove home. It was like a block and a half home, and I drove home, parked my car, came into the house, and I'm still seeing this. It's not like it went away. We're talking, this was 15 minutes. And at that point, then I told my wife, I'm like, I got a headache, which it wasn't a headache, like, 'cause my head didn't hurt. My head hurt because I'm like, what am I seeing? It wasn't like a pain though. I'm like, what the hell am I seeing? And so I'm like, I just need to lay down for a little bit. And when I did, I actually called on to Jesus Christ. I'm like, whatever this is, please come take it away from me. I don't want to see this anymore. I don't know what this is. It's terrifying me. I was actually, and I don't get scared much anymore when things happen, but this one I was.
Yeah.
And I would say within a couple more minutes, it faded away into nothing, and it was gone. But this was an experience that, I've tried drawing it out, finding pictures that maybe kind of replicate it. And I haven't, I've used AI to try to draw out this apocalyptic type of world in behind what I saw. And and I can't do it justice, but I've kind of come up with some pictures that are fairly similar to it. But it was fairly recent, and it was probably one of the most terrifying things that have happened in a long time. Or I don't want to say terrifying, just shocked, and I don't know what to do kind of thing.
I remember we talked about this after our first podcast when I was on yours, and that is the after show podcast is actually available on Patreon, and you can go listen to this. And you showed the pictures and everything. You showed that these giant industrial fans, basically, like you said, in these cubes.
Yes,
and the black and brown sky. And I told you about my experience of something similar when I saw the Hat Man, didn't I? And it's
yes, you did. Yes,
I
you
saw
did.
the black and brown sky you're talking about. This like ink bleeding into browny rust color of black ink.
Yes.
It's swirling in the sky. It's really odd thing. It's ominous. It's like a silent storm of mud and blood and black. It's really weird, isn't it? And
extremely weird.
And I remember the industrial. I did like an industrial Cyrillic Russian sign, kind of rusted and creaking and hanging over this post-apocalyptic realm where the road had peeled away from it. It was very Silent Hill-y. If anyone's played the video games of Silent Hill, it's very much like that other side of things, And that's what the Hat Man was when I had to deal with him, and I was in this place. And I don't know, like, the way you describe it, it's kind of like you had like a remote viewing experience. You're like piercing through a portal that showed you another place that exists. It's almost like you could go through it into that place, and it's like, I don't know if it's the spirit realm or maybe it's an actual place somewhere on Earth we don't know about you were seeing. I don't know how to explain that to you, but
like, is this possibly where the disembodied spirits? Is this the area that they inhabit, and this is what they see?
The dry lands, as it's described, because they have to understand as well. If the spirit realm and the physical realm are one and the same place, then it makes sense that the spirit realm may look like our realm, but with this odd spin to it in some way. You know what I mean? Like with this rusted, decaying, other upside down style, Stranger Things style look to it. It's our world, but not our world. It's our world, but darker, grittier, drier, void of life, void of anything good or useful. Or maybe that's kind of...
And maybe that's why they want possession of our bodies, because then we see the beauty. We're able to see this spectrum of light
Mm.
that maybe they can't see the spectrum of light where we see all this beauty, and we're able to taste all the things that are, like flavorful and stuff like that, and that's what they strive for.
One odd thing is, the DMT experience, which also takes you to these same realms. It is colourful, it is bright, it is psychedelic, trippy, and weird. And maybe this is the difference between somebody with a body going there sees it as beautiful, sees it as a place of colour and form and geometry and perfection and design, and you can see the operating systems at play and the code of the universe, because we are made in the image of God with a body as gods in a sense, with these abilities to perceive with our senses and process. But the Nephilim, who are disembodied, perhaps they don't perceive it that way because they haven't got the faculties to do it that way, or the senses, or the nervous system anymore. Maybe the way they perceive it is like our world, but void of colour, void of life, void of joy. It's a dry, miserable, horrible place to be. That's just dull and empty and useless in a sense. But when we go there, we're like, this place is amazing and colourful, and look, it's like a cosmic circus of some kind, But from their perspective, it's like, this is hell. I'm stuck in hell perpetually, Who knows?
This has been a fascinating conversation because it's pushed me in a direction that, like, for us mentioning this, it's kind of like, I need to look into this further, because this very much could be exactly what I saw. And, for those who are saying, oh, it's an ocular migraine, well, can't they be both in the same thing? Isn't it possibly us piercing the veil through this? Because the ocular migraines usually don't have any pain at all. You start seeing these plasma, like these colors and plasma is what I think it is. Like, possibly you're peering through a portal, and I believe I was able to actually see through that portal, and I saw the other side. Interesting. Who know? Who truly knows with these things? Like I say, I think whatever happens to it, like something like an illness, or I get migraines. Yeah. I've had them since I was a child. I know exactly what you're talking about. My cure is turn off all the lights, put a blackout curtain, and just sleep it off for an hour or two, and usually the migraine goes away. But I've had these auras, they call them, where things start to get really trippy and weird, and everything's glowing. Yep. And people say it's an ocular migraine. You start seeing streaks and things swirling around, and it's like, okay, things are getting weird. I'm going to go lie down for a bit. But it sounds like you had like a breakthrough there. It sounds like yours went a bit further beyond where it normally would go, and it tore that veil. That's exactly it, because, it's kind of like everybody stopped at this point saying, oh, it's an ocular migraine, but what did I see behind there? Oh, that was your mind. It was your brain interpreting these senses or something like that. I'm like, no. Like, I'm seeing moving things. I'm seeing things very clearly. And like, myself, I was not blessed. I was cursed with migraines as well. And it's that's something that I started changing my eating habit, and so I was able to kind of eliminate them a lot more out of.
Just out of curiosity, it's same for me. What is it you cut out that stopped the migraines?
Sugar and caffeine, and but I still kind of dive into that, and I would say actually fried foods. Fried foods was a big thing. I switched to, and I need to go back, but I switched to a carnivore diet. I did a carnivore diet, and that really helped me, including my ADHD. Well, for me it was ADD. So including my ADD, I had the carnivore diet really helped. That helped me to focus and accomplish a lot more. But that, and it's something that I need to practice more, because it's like, oh, I know what to do, but I need to do it.
Well, I've heard good things about the carnivore diet. I am a meat eater myself, and I'm very sad that iron-rich foods like red meat are something I'm supposed to have less of these days. They say not to change your diet for hemochromatosis because it doesn't matter anyway. You're gonna load iron whether you like it or not, and you still need the nutrients from food, so don't worry too much about it, But it's probably best not to have a steak every other day like I used to be doing. But I'm still, I do like the idea of the carnivore diet. But funnily enough, for me, I found what stopped my migraines almost completely. I'm still predisposed to them given light sensitivity issues, but they really stopped when I cut out diet products. Anything that had fake sugar like aspartame or sweeteners in them. Specifically aspartame, aspartame or aspartame, however you want to pronounce it.
Aspartame, that's what we say is aspartame. Yes,
that was the one for me. That's my trigger, and I used to drink a lot of Diet Coke, like a lot, more than any human should, a morbid amount. It was silly, but I found when I cut that out and switched to just normal full sugar stuff instead, and had less, obviously. I cut out. I went on a health kick and cut out most fizzy drinks and went on a water thing anyway. But now I have things with sugar in it instead of the diet option. and I don't get
Yes.
migraines. I don't get migraines anymore. The sugar's fine. It's the fake sugar. It's the sweeteners that give me the
Yes.
issues. And you look into the long list of side effects of aspartame, and migraines are on there along with cancer and death. You know what I mean? The whole thing is a nightmare fuel of side effects, and it's basically poison. It's just pure poison. Like and they've swapped sugar, natural sugar cane, for poison, and make you think it's health food and it's good for you and it's there to keep you thin. And obesity is a side effect of the sweetener, it turns out. It doesn't make you thinner either. It's a huge con. And we had this thing in England called the sugar tax. And it happened in 2015. And Theresa May was the Prime Minister at the time, and she was saying, to encourage healthy eating and to make kids stop eating so much sugar, we're introducing a sugar tax for the benefit of the people. And now any product that has sugar in it will be more expensive than the non-sugar option. It's like 15 to 20% more expensive. And that's basically the sugar tax. So you find what happened after this is chains like at fast food places or anywhere really, even restaurants, you know what I mean, who have like the drink dispenser where you get the cup and you can get the syrup infused with soda water flavored drink, whatever it is. They're all diet now. They got rid of the sugar option because it's cheaper for the business than buying the sugar-infused syrup option.
Wow.
It's kind of like, oh, you want a Coke? Just have a Diet Coke. It's the same. It tastes the same anyway. But they don't understand. No, you've just taken away my option to have a poison-free option. And everyone thinks it's a health benefit. They're all they're naive. And I made a video saying the sugar tax is not about making you healthy. It's about killing you. They are literally putting poison in and forcing you to only have the poison option, unless you're very rich. And you can always afford to have the sugar option instead. And you want to talk about a totalitarian 1984 regime of England and the nonsense that goes on over here. That's just one example. And for me, as somebody who finally figured out it's the diet drink that's giving me chronic migraines. Finally, let's cut it out. Everything's great again. Oh, that's going to be your only option now if you want a fizzy drink. It's like, are you joking me? Like,
exactly. Well, you finally found the solution. It's like, no, we're going to take your solution away from you and keep you, under our thumb still. Well, Paul, I want to say thank you so much for having me on. I got to run here. I got to take my dog out, and I really, really appreciate this. That was
no problem.
I really enjoyed this conversation.
No problem, Ryan. Thanks for being here, and stay in touch. We'll do it again sometime.
Of course. I'll have you on for one of mine.
Absolutely. No problem. Take it easy. Go take the dog for a walk. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Right, well, there we go, guys. That was Ryan from the Codex. Was it? I forgot the name of his channel. Codex of Curiosities, I think it is, or Codega's Codex of Curiosities. Nice guy. I really enjoyed talking with him. We had a good conversation. I think our podcast is going to be released on his platform soon if he hasn't already released it. But I'll release it on my channel as well soon enough. But there we go, guys. I just want to quickly say, while I've got more people here with me now, and I'm going to keep going for a little bit longer. The show isn't over. That's just that conversation. I did start late with Ryan, so we did lose an hour of our time. But I'm going to carry on with the Truth Therapy session anyway, and I'm going to talk with you guys in the chat for a little bit. So stick around, the show's not over. But I do just want to remind the people who've just come in, who may not have caught the start of the show, a brother in Christ, a good friend of mine, and somebody who's been in the game for a while now, talking about the Little Season Theory. Tala of the Kingdom Within is currently having a lot of issues. Financially, he is currently homeless with his family, his wife and 4 children. He has 4 daughters. One of them is disabled, and he himself is suffering from crippling rheumatoid arthritis, and therefore is now having to go through the governmental system for social housing. We need to help him. This is what we do here. We are a community and we do support each other when we need the help. He has been a supporter of this channel for a long time, and he has always donated. Even recently, I think he sent me $20 when he should have absolutely no business at all sending me money at a time like this. But that's just the type of guy he is. He's a God-fearing, Jesus-loving man, and we need to help him. So he has sent links to me to get help. I've done what I can, and unfortunately he's told me he's managed to find a place tonight, a hotel for his family to stay at and to get some food and something to eat, but he does need help to get him through until social housing through Section 8 finally is fulfilled and he can get a home for him and his family. He's going through a rough time. Nobody plans for stuff like this. Nobody plans to be homeless. It could happen to any of us. So we should be supporting him the best we can. So please, if you can offer anything at all to Tala to help him and his family get through this troubling, tough time, The links are in the description of this video. You can, I think there's Venmo, there's Cash App, and there's PayPal. Send whatever you can to him, please. And also, obviously, subscribe to his channel, showing some support. Check out his backlog of videos. He has a lot of videos here. He's been talking about the little season theory for a long time. He's a trailblazer of this topic. We wouldn't be here talking about it if it wasn't for people like Tala. So go and check out his work. Join his Discord as well, the Kingdom Within Discord. It's an amazing fellowship and community of godly people and Christians just like ourselves. So keep him in your prayers, guys. Pray for him, and if you can, please financially support Tala. He's too humble. He doesn't want to ask for help himself, but he needs the help, so I'm doing it on his behalf. Please consider sending anything you can. At all. I mean, I don't know, in the next week or so, I bet this video will have maybe 3,000 to 4,000 views. If each one of you just donated $1, that would see his family through for maybe a month or two with a home and a roof over their head and food. That's all we need in this world, and it's not always as easily as accessible as it should be. So please consider that, guys. Back to the show. Switch the webcam. Here we are. Let's have a chat, guys. What's going on in the chat? Let's see what people are saying, shall we? I'm just gonna quickly try and get it up so I can see here. Maybe I'll pop it out if possible. It's not possible. Okay, I'll do the best I can. I'm gonna pull it back and see what's going on. So we're talking about the sugar tax, and we're talking about nanoparticles. We're talking about it all today, aren't we, guys? We're having a broad spectrum conversation, and just the way I like it, just like the good old days. Government doesn't really do anything but steal more of our money. Absolutely. It's all tax. Especially here in England, it's ridiculous how much we get taxed. It's the most heavily taxed country in the world, I believe. And I'm pretty sure every country believes that about their own taxes. It's never nice being robbed blind, is it? I do intermittent fasting daily, says Linda, and didn't realise it was a thing. Intermittent fasting is something I do. I've done a lot less of it these days. Maybe I'm stress eating because I've got a baby on the way, I don't know, but I've put on a few pounds or a bit of timber, as someone once said to me, and I was morbidly offended the first time I had my child. I put on a bit of weight. He came up to me and he actually tapped my belly on each side. I was like, "You put on a bit of timber there, Paul, haven't you?" And I was like, "Oh my." I was devastated. I'm morbidly devastated. Like, is it that obvious? And I think I'm going through the same thing again with the second child on the way. But I'll lose it all in no time. Don't worry about it. I usually go through cycles of intermittent fasting. And I find that is the best, most effective way of losing some weight. Intermittent fasting. And it's good for the soul as well. It's good for the parasites too. It gets rid of them. You can't beat a bit of intermittent fasting. Aspartame turns into wood grain alcohol in your system. Yeah, it's rough. And the thing is about aspartame, I can smell it in a drink. I don't even have to check the label. I know when it's used aspartame as its sweetener. I can just smell it and it makes me sick. It gives me a migraine just from the smell and the aroma of the stuff. I'm like hypersensitive to it now. I don't know what it is. It's like a repulsion within me. I can't help it. Like as soon as I sip some and I can taste it's in there, I feel sick instantly, and I'm like, get that thing away from me. I don't want it anywhere near me. And then I get myself something with actual sugar in it, or I get water instead, or I have a coffee instead. I know they're not healthy options or necessarily. Nobody's perfect, but yeah, I try to avoid anything at all that's diet related, and it's everything now. Even the stuff where they're not advertising it, it's still sweeteners over sugar. Awesome show today, says SP. Thanks, I'm glad you liked it. I hope you enjoyed Ryan's stuff. His links are down below to his YouTube channel. Go and check it out. I think he's got about 2,000 to 3,000 subscribers, but his podcast is quite good as well. He gets quite a lot of hits on there, so go check out his podcast. Again, he's got all the big names on there: L.A. Marzulli, Gary Wayne, he's got Vicky Joy Anderson, he's got yours truly on there too, and many other big names as well. And he's definitely on his own journey. He's learning a lot of things, and he's very receptive and a very open, kind-hearted guy, and I like that. I like his style. Cult of Cons here. Great chat today. I wish I could have been more active, but duty calls. Don't worry. It's nice that you're here. You did a great Sunday service today as well. I caught the last 20 minutes of that, and it was great. You were on a roll, and considering you're doing those shows live as well, it's really impressive. You really got into the swing of things. You're doing really well. So yeah, I enjoyed that one. And if anyone doesn't know, go check out the Cult of Cons channel. He does every Sunday. He does an ad-libbed, just in the moment sermon, whatever's on his heart and his mind, and he just talks to God and he talks to us, and it's good. It's really good fellowship. Wherever you stand on the whole Sunday, Saturday worship, whatever, there's never a bad day to talk to God. Okay, so go and check it out if you haven't already. I definitely give it a listen. I do not know you, but I like the energy of you, the cult of Con, says Captain of my soul. See, Connor, you're making friends already. There we go. Excellent. We got some. I saw a lot of deleted messages along the way there from the moderators. You guys won't see that kind of stuff, but I see it. So there's been the odd troll here and there, it seems. But that it comes with the territory, doesn't it? Maybe. Well, I won't say trolls. People saying just stupid things. It happens. You know, people always say I'm an autistic Christian, as if being autistic makes you less possible of being a Christian, or something like that. I am Christian and then autistic. Jesus Christ first, says Mish. That's a good way of seeing it, yeah. And you shouldn't really define yourself by any, what do you call it, differently abled, neurological, neurodivergent, whatever you want to describe it, or that type of thing. We're just people. And people all function differently, and we all have different ways of interacting with reality, and that's the way I see it, you know. And yeah, it doesn't matter what state of mind you have, or what hindrances or advantages you even have. There's nothing to stop you from being a Christian first, absolutely. Let me just take these headphones out. I don't actually need the headphones in anymore, do I? So I'll just take them out and give my ears a rest. I'd love for you to join us on Wednesday at 6 p.m, says Captain. There you go. Look at him. He's poaching my subscribers now, is Connor. Do go for it, Connor. Poach away. That's fine. You deserve it. My wife is telling everyone she's 35 weeks pregnant today. Any minute now, guys. Any minute I'll have another son, and our family will be a family of 4. I'm very excited and nervous and terrified and overjoyed. I'm feeling all the feelings all at once. It's very difficult to describe unless you've been there. I'm feeling a lot more confident this time round because we've already got a child and we know how it's done, and we're prepped. We've got our bottles ready. We got we pre-bought all the formula and the things we're going to use. You know, everything's ready. We've got the clothes. We've got out the old clothes from him, and we've now sifted through what's still usable, and we're going to reuse. We're like a well-oiled machine here in the Stobbs household, ready for this child to turn up at any minute. I'm ready to go at any moment. I've got my car keys downstairs on the side. I know where everything is. We're just going to get up and go when we're ready. Exciting stuff. Really exciting stuff. I found out a long time ago that aspartame in aluminium cans, look at me, I'm talking like you guys already, in aluminium cans has trace amounts of formaldehyde in it. So that's absolutely terrifying as well, isn't it? And I would joke that I was slowly embalming myself when I drank it in my 20s. Well, at least you had a sense of humor about it. That's what counts. The chat has officially gotten weird. Never fails, says Wendy. Yeah. It does happen. Yeah. Again, it's what kind of makes it fun. I think people are here for the weird, aren't they? in a way, but it's also a great community there at the same time. I'm slowly catching up to the live feed here. Let's see what I can do. You all haven't seen the one YouTube blocked. Goodness gracious, that's right. Yeah. A lot of things behind the scenes the moderators are witnessing are things no people should ever have to witness. Thanks, Paul. You're the best man, says Connor. No. Don't think anything of it, Connor. A person on a discovery, not a Christian, says the doctor. Well, that's a very vague sentence, isn't it? Everyone's getting to the truth in their own time, in their own way. It takes what works for some doesn't work for others, and it's up to us to be patient. But if they're looking for truth, they will inevitably get to the biblical truth. Whether they like it or not, they might go the kicking and screaming. Who knows? As I was talking about with JCK yesterday on her podcast, which is available on her Patreon and my Patreon currently. If you want to go and listen, it will be released to the public very soon. But we were talking about the Christian conspiracy journey, and she's recently converted from the New Age world into the Christian world. and she's lost a lot of subscribers in that process, and she's had to give up a lot of what she's built and leave it behind because she has to align herself with the truth at the end of the day. And that's what she was truly seeking, the truth. And when she realized it was in the truth of Christ and the biblical perspective, she had the hard decision and choice of leaving behind everything she had built, the empire she had built based on the lies. And she made that brave step, lost a lot of income, a lot of subscribers, but she's made the right choice and she's building back better as far as I'm concerned. But the point is, it took her 30 years to get there, but she got there in the end, and that's all that counts. That's what matters. And God's doing that work through everybody in their own time and however they can handle it. And that's fine. It's not up to us to save people. All we can do is point them in the right direction. It's Jesus who saves them in the end. It's God who's in control. So I wouldn't judge anybody just because they say they're on Discovery. Oh, well, you're not a Christian. Well, so what? They'll get there eventually. That's my attitude. That's my optimistic outlook. When the creator put it into my heart to start researching short season on YouTube about 9 months ago, Kingdom Within was some of the first videos I watched and started me on the path. Send money. Exactly, Ian. Yeah, he's been there for years, like way before me. He's the one who should be like getting all the supports and the subscribers and everything to do with this. Like he's put in all the legwork, and I've just reiterated some of the information he's been talking about for years. So go and check out his channel and show him the support he deserves, as far as I'm concerned. Anything I can do to help the guy, I'm going to do. He's been nothing but humble and kind and courteous to me ever since we started talking. I had to leave his Discord because some unsavory characters in there were causing strife just because I was around. They were accusing me of being anything and everything under the sun with no evidence. And I was like, well, you're wrong. None of that's true. Why? I don't know why you're saying these things. But Tala was put between a rock and a hard place, and to help him, I was like, I'll just leave the Discord. I'm not here to cause you any problems. So I left. No hard feelings over that at all, but I would still encourage anybody else to go there and to go and join his fellowship and get in on the conversation and also support his channel and give him everything he deserves. I'm not looking to make the guy's life any worse just because people hate me. I don't want to drag anyone down into my fights unnecessarily. But yeah, he's I consider him a friend. And when I heard today what was happening to him, I have to do anything I can to help. I would be a bad friend if I didn't. So help him, please. This is me doing what I can with what I've got. Please just give anything you can to the guy. Help his family live. Help him and his family have a life worth living. Give them a roof over their head, please. And give them food. It starts at home, and we're a family at the end of the day. Sorry, the chats leaped around all over the place. We got a new member. We got Jackie. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. Jackie Blue. I'm going to say Jackie Blue for now. That's fine. Thanks for joining the memberships. I appreciate that. Congrats, Paul, says Virginia Dare. Thank you. I appreciate it. The first one's so scary, we're bringing him home. Second one, not quite so much, says Wendy. Yeah. I think we're well more prepared than we were prior. Wendy, who's listening, the moderator, has helped us out as well. And Wendy, you should be happy to know that we have. You've helped us get a hold of one of those vibrating baby chairs, which we didn't have the first time round. So hopefully, when we want to put them down in the living room so we can play with our other son, and get involved, we have somewhere to put them now. That'll hopefully keep them quiet because we don't use dummies. We didn't use one with our first son because it damages the teeth and it makes it grow funny, and it's a vice they don't really need. We let them cry and deal with it, and he's never had a dummy, never sucked his thumb. I'm going to do the same thing with this baby, but we would have killed for something that could do the rocking and shaking and vibrating for us. Now we've got it, thanks to you, Wendy. And I'm hoping this is going to be a game changer this time round. We've learned from our first mistakes, and let's just see how it works. But thanks to you, Wendy, we do have that now, and I really appreciate it. And obviously the rest of the money as well is going to Keely. She's going to treat herself and do what she can just to make her life better. And obviously she's going to need new clothes at the end of all this and all the rest of it. So yeah, thank you so much for that support. All things are lawful, friends, but not all things are profitable, says Cult of Con. Ooh, what's prompted him to say this? Who knows? Oh, we're talking about cannabis. Yeah, fair enough. And talk about vaping as well, I see. I always say that we should trust the Holy Spirit and be open for conviction and change when the Father calls, right? That's right, I agree. Wendy says that I'm over a year of not smoking now. I love smoking, but I knew I needed to quit. Father put it on my heart to do so. Yeah, quitting nicotine is hard. It's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. One of the I've done a lot of hard things in my time, let's put it that way. But it's up there with one of them. And I would say you have to want to do it sincerely for it to work. You can fool yourself many times, but you never really intended to quit. And nicotine does that to you. It rewires your brain to be confused about it and to make you genuinely think it's a good thing in some way. Like it's a really pernicious, highly addictive chemical. It's messed up, and even though it's harmless on its own, the thing gets attached to, which is the tobacco, is the thing that's killing you as well, and it comes with its horrible side effects, but it does certainly rewire the brain, and it was very difficult to... You can never get rid of the grooves you've created in your neural pathways, which make you an addict. They'll never go away. All you can do is make the other things more powerful than those urges and make them seem smaller in comparison. Do you get what I mean? Because even I have moments, and I've not smoked nicotine now probably for 8 months, 9 months, but even then I was having trace amounts for like the 2 years through an e-cigarette prior to that. But I actually quit like tobacco and real, burning herb smoke like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe something like that. Now I'm losing track, around the 2016 period, so even longer, maybe 8 years ago. And I switched to an e-cigarette. I cut cannabis out at the same time and went cold turkey on that. And that took me about 2 weeks to get over. That was tough. The immediate withdrawal symptoms are apparent. It's mainly mental, but there's some odd dreams and sweats that come with it. But that was easy. It's the nicotine that was the hardest thing to truly get rid of. And it took me 8 years. Like I said, it took me a long time to taper down the strength of my e-cigarette to the point where I mix my own liquid, so I know exactly what I'm taking. And I was eventually on like next to nothing. It's like in a day, it's like I've had a quarter of a cigarette. You know what I mean? So I'm not really smoking that much nicotine. It was the habit then that was the issue to break of having that thing in my hand and having it at a certain time and doing the process. It's like you build up these habits, which again create pathways in your brain, which your brain gets used to. And then when you cut it out, it's kind of like, what do you do with your hands now? And you've trained yourself to do certain things at certain times, and those habits then kick in, and it's tough. It's like it's really difficult, and these urges, these overwhelming urges that come to you, are just so powerful. And every now and then, even I sometimes still feel that urge, like I could just do with a cigarette right now, or you remember like this is a time where I would have a cigarette, and these nostalgic feelings come back, and then you put them to the back of your mind. It's like, no. You've come this far, you don't need to do any of that. Think of what's better and what's going for. And it gets a little bit easier every time. And those urges get a little bit less as the years go by to the point where they're practically non-existent. But it took like 8 years to taper myself off nicotine. And even that didn't feel good. It was hard, it was difficult. So I have empathy for anybody who's quitting smoking. I'm fully on board and support you all the way. You can do this. And you do it as best you can do it. It's hard. It's tough. I wasn't allowed my first birth. Oh, we're talking about my wife. Yeah, the first time was a bit of a stressful experience. Yeah, and he came early. And there's a cutoff point in the UK. If they're under 36 weeks, you have to have a hospital doctor-led birth. All hooked up to machines and stuff, and obviously because the baby's technically premature and all that sort of thing. And my wife also had this gestational diabetes, false test nightmare, which made her lose her ability to give birth at a birthing center in a pool with midwife led, and it it just became it was a horrible, stressful nightmare, and the hospital where we are is not nice. It's really horrible. It's not a nice place to have to spend nights, and it was stressful. So we're hoping this baby makes it to 37 weeks this time, which means it'll be full term, which means you can go to the birthing center and have a natural, peaceful, more comfortable experience in a much nicer place. Fingers crossed. We just need to make it to the 7th of December, I think. Something like that. If I remember my date, yeah, my wife said here the 7th of December. So fingers crossed we make it there. God willing. Praying that Jesus gives me this. I don't pray for much for myself, but that would be wonderful for me and my family if we can make it to 37 weeks. But my wife, I think she's getting to the point where she's like, just get this thing out of me now. I don't want to go any longer. The pain is too much. But at the same time, she wants to get to it's a catch-22, and being pregnant doesn't look at any fun at all. And my heart goes out to her and all of the pregnant women out there who may be going through the same thing. You're doing a good job. Keep it up. I know it's rough. Hang in there, I guess what I'm trying to say. But what do I know? I'm just a man, I haven't got a clue what's going on. I love coffee. Not ready to go for that yet. Yeah, I'm still addicted to caffeine. I'll put my hands up. That's my last vice. That's all I've got left. And that's going to be even harder to get rid of. No way. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. Part of me feels like you're going to have to give up eventually, Paul. You can't have any attachment to any form of chemical whatsoever. It's the right thing to do. But there's still that side of me. I'm a sinner. Hands up. I'm not perfect. There's that one thing that I just love coffee. I love the taste. I love the smell. I love everything about it. I love making it. And it's no different than when you tell yourself, I just love rolling cigarettes. I love tobacco. I love the smell. I love the taste. I love rolling it. It's the same thing. I hear it. I hear the hypocrisy. I really do. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I'm not quite there yet. Maybe God will do that work with me in the next 10 years. Who knows? Red Storm, I love being pregnant. Why does everyone hate it? Hey, it's not always a comfortable, great experience. It's not always the same for every person. You may have had a good experience. Not everybody does. It's not always pleasant. Okay. Someone else did the work, says Cage Fire. Well, look, that's good. Lucky for you. Cigarettes were easier for me to quit than drinking. Drinking beer or wine is tougher because I like pairing either with certain meals. It's almost impossible not to have red wine with pizza, says Granola Grin. Okay, well, I eat pizza all the time without wine, so it's okay. You can do it. You can do it if you put your heart into it. Ashley, do you eat them raw? What is he talking about? Papaya seeds, yeah, and pumpkin seeds as well. Eat those and they'll get rid of parasites. I've been eating pumpkin seeds lately, and they're delicious. I didn't realize how good they were when you roast them. They're actually really nice. They've got like a popcorny taste at first, and then it melds into its own unique pumpkin flavor afterwards. But they're really good for you. They're full of fiber, and they're good at killing parasites. Who knew? So I've been eating a lot of them recently, and like I said, I've been on a bit of a health kick, an anti-parasite kick. I've been doing diatomaceous earth as well, and I've done the black walnut hull wormwood complex thing, and I've been doing a heavy metal detox as well. And I'm slowly but surely I can feel the difference, like mental clarity, I suppose is a good way to describe it, and kind of like a positivity which I otherwise wouldn't have had. I'm not saying you don't get stressed and you still don't have issues and get angry about things. Trying to raise a toddler is a nightmare. If you didn't know, I'm not perfect, but it's when it comes to things like work and focus, and I definitely feel less brain fog. Like there's a difference, and maybe I didn't have that many parasites to begin with. I don't know, but not to give too much information. But you notice when you're doing these parasite cleanses, certain things are certainly coming out of you which make you go, what the hell is going on? So there must have been something. It's that type of thing, but it's kind of, yeah, who knows? I think everybody should at least do it just to see if you get benefits or not. There's no harm in doing a detox of parasites and everything else. But as a conspiracy theorist with a channel, I felt like I need to try all these things just to give them a go. I'm going to try an earthing mat next by the office. I'm going to start grounding myself and see if that does any benefits. Who knows? And maybe I'll get one for the mattress for the bed. I've been hinting it to the wife. If you want to get me anything at all this holiday season, if you want to give me a gift, then I'll take an earthing mat. You know, just see how, just to try it. You know, I'm up for anything now. Any of these alternative medicine healing things, I was like, yeah, I'll just do it. Let's just do it. I'll be a guinea pig. Let's see what happens. See if it works. What's the worst that can happen? I cure myself of a possible cancer. Great, like, let's just try it. Like, why not? Yeah, so I'm all in. I'm all in on that kind of stuff. What else do I need to try? There's probably loads. Send me a long list of all the alternative medicine things that everyone does. Like, send me a long list of them, and I'll try them all, guys. Go onto Telegram, onto the medicine and health section, and then post all the things. There's like, isn't that like that electrical device you can hold that apparently sends electrical current through the body that can kill parasites as well? There's all sorts of things, isn't there? I'll try it all. I'll try it all. What are we talking about? I've lost the chat, guys. I'm talking about how gross pork is. Yeah, I see. I've seen all the videos and things like that, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. Again, I'm not perfect. It's a British thing. Pork is kind of like a huge staple for us here. It's like in everything. It's everywhere. It's like a big deal, like sausages and bacon and stuff like that. I know in America it's not like it's not a big deal there. But I feel like it's more traditional in England. It's like a traditional type of meat that we have. And maybe if I'm lucky, maybe our pigs are better than your pigs. I don't know. Maybe they're slightly less parasitical, but probably not. I don't eat as much as I used to. I'm starting up for much for red meat and chicken and poultry. I don't have pork as often as I used to have it anymore, but I do occasionally dabble in eating pork. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm not endorsing it. It's probably not a good thing. But it's like it's difficult to not do it here in England. Should I say it's very difficult. Kanga, I'm actually drinking coffee right now. By the way, good to see you, Nina. Thanks for being here. It's been a while since I've seen you. I was getting worried there for a minute. It's good to see you still here. Thanks for joining us. I'm actually drinking coffee right now. I haven't had any since April. I don't like it because it usually gives me a tummy ache and doesn't give me a lift unless I go a long time without it. That's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I think caffeine is one of those things when you do take a break from it for a while and then you have it again, you really feel the impact of that drug. Like, I went a very long time without having any Coke, no sugar. Like, I went on a caffeine Coke, no coffee, like hype. Like, I just had no caffeine whatsoever, no sugar, no fizzy drinks, nothing like that. And it was because when I got diagnosed with hemochromatosis, I had to avoid all sugar because it was killing me faster than it would normally because of the severe damage to my liver and all these type of things. So I went like 2 months without having any caffeine. And when I was in maintenance, I had a Coke because I was out with friends for the first time in a long time. And I don't drink. They went to the pub, but I don't drink. So I just had a Coke, you know. And I drank the can of Coke and I was absolutely buzzing. I felt like I was at university again and I just like, I don't know, dabbed like a finger worth of MDMA or something. Like I was absolutely just chatting away. I could feel the caffeine surging through my body. You know what I mean? I was like, whoa, this stuff is way more powerful than I realized. You just don't realize it when you have it on a daily basis, just what that chemical is doing to you. Like it's altering your state in a very tangible way that you don't realize until you've fasted for a little bit. Just saying, you know. So yeah, Kangaroo, I understand what you're talking about there with the coffee. I love pumpkin seeds. I roasted a bunch recently, says Wendy. Yeah, same, you know. It's really nice. Like, I'm shocked at how good they are and how I've been sleeping on this my entire life. And it's definitely something I'm going to be incorporating into my diet on a semi-daily basis, I think. Putting it in soups and all sorts of things, you know what I mean? Paul, you are looking somewhat healthier at the moment. Oh, thanks. Maybe it's actually the lighting, because I've got a new studio set up as I've been doing the office. And if I turn this light off, look at the difference. Look how dark that is. But I've got like one here, and if I click these two buttons, suddenly I'm illuminated. So maybe it's just the lighting that makes me seem like I'm looking healthier. Who knows? My cheeks are looking a lot more flush lately. But I am coming out of severe anemia. I've been severely anemic for like the past month and a half, maybe 2 months. And I've been taking iron supplements. I know it seems counterintuitive, but I'm eating meat more because I have to get my iron levels out of anemic zone. And my ferritin is currently at last time I checked, it was at 72. So I'm back into the good zone. But I was at my happiest, healthiest, and fittest when my ferritin level was at 200. So I've got a long way to go yet before I actually feel back to myself. But I'm basically waking up every morning feeling like I've run a marathon. I am extremely fatigued. My muscles are very weak and my joints are aching. I've been getting severe crippling arthritis in my fingers where I couldn't use them for anything. And it feels like somebody's taking my thumb and just pulling it down constantly. And doesn't matter what I do, it feels like somebody's trying to snap my thumb off. And when I was at the full whack, arthritic feeling in the fingers, probably from damage either from hemochromatosis or the anemia, it felt like my fingers were snapping from side to side, just popping, but someone had just grabbed the tip and gone snap, like all of them, and it lasts for like an hour. And I'm like internally screaming, looking at my hands, like, what is this new hell? And arthritis is no joke. It sounds, when you don't have it and you hear people complaining about their arthritis, you're like, oh, quit your whining. We've all been there. It's hard to empathize with something when you haven't experienced it for yourself. Now I'm fully in that zone, and I've been there, and it flares up and all these type of things. I am so sorry if I've ever given the impression that I didn't care about your pain in the past. It's kind of like, I don't deserve your sympathy anymore. Like, it's kind of like, maybe this is God's way of... I'm not saying I went around like abusing people with arthritis. I didn't. But I had that natural human inclination to be like, whatever. I don't have time to listen to you complain about your sore joints. It's kind of... But now it's happened to me. It's like, oh no. So this is what it's like. And I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, honestly. It's not good. But yeah, other than these odd random health issues, which I shouldn't be having at the age of 32, but that's just the way the world works. I think I'm getting better. The flare-ups have gone. I do have a bit of nerve damage in my shoulder, and it goes down my arm all the way down to the ring finger. I've been to physio, initial checks, and they've checked the nerves in my arms, and there's no major damage. But they think it's up here where the issue is. So I'm actually going to physiotherapy tomorrow, and they're going to see what they can do about the arm joint pain, if there's any stretches or something, or some kind of exercises that can deal with that. Maybe it's a trapped nerve. They're going to do some checks to see if there is a trapped nerve up there, and just to see what happens. But it's likely the repeated venesections where they put a needle into your arm constantly to draw the blood has maybe damaged a nerve, and it's maybe not. We don't know. We don't really know. Who knows? Who knows why the body does what it does? Who knows, honestly? I am quarterly ivermectin dose today. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I've not gone that hardcore yet with the parasite detox, and it's really hard to get hold of. Like, I don't know where I would even begin to get ivermectin here in England. It's probably the most coveted anti-parasitical going around, isn't it? What's just premiered? Old World Order merits a reaction. I haven't seen it yet. But I've seen that, a documentary's come out, hasn't it, talking about the old world buildings, and it's basically, isn't it just like a Tartarian documentary with no mention of Jesus at all, or the little season? It's basically, that's my first impression from what I've seen at a glance. I'll have to watch it and see what they're all saying about it. But I'm struggling for time. When I find time, I'll do what I can. Okay. It certainly does merit a reaction. Paul needs to see it, so this is what we're talking about. We'll have to review it and have a discussion about it. Maybe Paul can invite me and JT. You know what, Connor? Maybe that's exactly how it'll pan out, inspired by that throwaway comment you just made there. That's how this game works. People give me ideas. I'm like, yeah, sounds pretty good. Let's do it. Why not? What else am I going to do with my time? What else is more important than discussing the possible history and correct timeline and the possible reign of Christ on earth. There's nothing more important than talking about these things. It's the lighting, says my wife. Yeah, yeah. If you think I'm looking healthy now, you should see me in the morning. No way. But yeah, we'll watch it. I'll watch it. You watch it too, Connor. And once I've watched it, I'll let you know that I've seen it. And maybe we can get together and do a little bit of a breakdown about it. Just me and you. Maybe just me and you. We'll leave Joe out of this one. I don't know. Maybe I'll get Vitaly in on this one. And we'll have a good talk about it. I think picking it apart would make a nice video in the future. Yeah, maybe. Someone did give me a heads up today, actually, in Telegram. They sent me a personal message. And I haven't looked into it. I don't know anything about this, but the guy who makes the Rise YouTube channel, RSC or Rise, he's been in the game for years. He's one of the first major Christian YouTubers that I watched when I first came into the conspiracy world, back in 2013, 14, 15. And if I remember his story correctly, he's an ex-BBC producer. I think he worked for ITV or the BBC in Britain. I think he was gay as well, and I think he converted to Christianity, left all that life behind, and went really hardcore into being a Christian, and repenting of all his sins and all these type of things. And he just made really loads of videos about anti-Luciferian doctrine, and really exposing the Illuminati stuff. And he's been in the game for over a decade. He's been doing it for years, and he went quiet for a little bit, then came back again. And somebody just told me that he has recently had an outburst on one of his podcasts, lambasting the Little Season theory as and equating it with preterism, like they always do when they don't know what we're talking about. They say, "Oh, that's preterism, it's heresy," without actually listening to a word we've ever said. They've assumed we're just preterists out there deceiving people or something. Apparently he's made that tirade, and he says he's going to make a video about it soon. So eventually he's going to make a video either directly trying to expose people like me or something. I don't know what he's going to do. Or he's just going to make a video, hopefully just talking in general about the Little Season theory and why he thinks it's nonsense and how all the evidence for tribulation is coming upon us now. And these people are deceivers who are going to make people take the mark of the beast. I assume he's going to say something like that. And I would implore him, if he hasn't actually sincerely looked into the concept or the idea yet, and maybe perhaps he's just in ignorance about what it is we're actually saying here, before he makes that video, I would ask him to please watch our work. There's plenty of us out there, and listen to me and JT talk about it, listen to some of our podcasts, watch my my playlist, and see what comes out of it. And swim in it for a little bit. Get to know the idea. Get to see the evidences we've got. Get to understand why we're saying these things and where we're coming from. Separate yourself from this idea that we're preterists or that we're following the 1600 doctrine of Jesuit priests as a counter-reformation towards the Reformation of Protestantism from the Catholic Church. Forget all that nonsense. This is not a 16th century doctrine we're talking about here. And this is a new thing based on new evidences. It's a conclusion come to through new avenues, which have not yet been fully explored. So I hope he sees me talking today. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Maybe I'll reach out to him and sending an email, hoping he'll listen to us first, and just say sincerely, look, you're a brother in Christ. I really appreciate the work you've done over the years. We're not your enemy. We're conspiracy theorists and Christians first, and we've come across some information which is not anti-doctrine or anti-heretical. It doesn't deny the divinity of Christ in any way or salvation. It doesn't diminish the work he did. It's basically saying, I think we've been lied to about where we are in the timeline, and Satan has really worked his deception full time on us, and he has shifted our perceptions to be in the wrong time. And as a result of this, we are going to be deceived on a grand scale. Possibly to the point where when the final end game card is played by these controllers in this Little Season, it will make millions of Christians lose their faith, because tribulation won't play out as Scripture says. And when Scripture becomes fallible from this false perspective of tribulation happening now, when it doesn't go as the Scripture says it should go, millions will lose their faith. But when you realize we're not in that time, we're in the little season of Satan, after the 1,000-year reign, after tribulation, then what will happen will make a lot more sense. It's the final surrounding of the camp of saints and the Gog-Magog war. But that's not supposed to happen yet, according to Revelation 16, if you're living in Revelation 16 times. And I can't do it justice here just saying these very brief sentences that summarize hours and months of research that got us to these conclusions. But I think before you have it, if Rise hears this, before he has his reactionary video, please do the proper research. Don't just watch debunked videos, because they're getting it wrong. They're not actually hitting the points we're talking about. They're creating straw men and destroying them before they have a chance to actually truly research the topics we're talking about here. I would suggest just look into our work, see what you think. You know, if you think we're wrong, then we're wrong. Fair enough, but don't make us your enemies, because we certainly don't see you as our enemy. We're just trying to get to the truth. We still consider Jesus Christ to be the truth, the life, and the way. He is our Lord and Savior. His sacrifice is not diminished on the cross. His resurrection is true. He rose from the dead. He conquered death. He took the keys of hell. He took all authority back from the high places and the false gods, small g, that put themselves in positions of power in the old age. He has full authority over everything, because he is God. He is our God. He is the Son of God. He is all these things to us, and nothing changes just because we are questioning the time we might be living in. So that's it. That's my message there to Rise. If he ever sees that, who knows if he's even watching? Who cares? He probably isn't. Who am I? Who am I? I'm nobody. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what he's gonna do. So there's a heads up to the community from someone who gave me a heads up. It's something like that is going to come from him soon enough. And we've expected this. We've seen big channels kind of do this already, haven't we? With multi-100,000 subscriber followers, make the anti-little season video, because they've spent years preaching the tribulation doctrine, the rapture doctrine, or the end times doctrine of the coming Armageddon doctrine. And when they hear people saying this, no, you're wrong, within the little season, they're naturally going to respond like, blasphemy. Do you not see what's clearly going on in the world right now? How could you say such a thing? You're deceiving millions. It's kind of like they're going to have that reaction because they've invested for so many years in one specific eschatology. I don't think they realize that there actually are other eschatologies in some ways. And we're giving them people this alternative option. It's kind of like it's not necessarily just one way. Well, there is only one way. We can't all be right. I'll say that as well. But it's kind of, have you considered the other options? Maybe not. Maybe you didn't realize there were other options, So there we go. That's all we're doing. That's what we're doing. We're not bad guys. We're not the enemy. Though a lot of people like to make us out to be the perfect villains sometimes, don't we? There's a shout out to the Cult of Cons, one of his previous main character podcasts. Always a straw man argument, yeah. Had some controversy and it was brutal. Oh. Denomination is as trivial as skin color. Division is the same. In the name of unity, brothers and sisters in Christ. That's it. All of our food is poison or has... I'm not allowed to say those words. But yes, Robert, I understand what you're saying. Everything's corrupted and our food certainly is no different. Some guy from the BBC. Well, no, I don't think he's not been a member. Maybe he is. This is, well, people say he's a gatekeeper because he has a shady past in the industry. You got to wonder sometimes, haven't you? But maybe I'm going to assume he's sincere and he actually is on fire for Christ, and everything he does is because he loves Jesus. And if he's just got the wrong eschatology, or he believes he has the right eschatology and we just have the wrong eschatology, and he's going to make his reactionary video to that, then so be it. But I'm just letting him know ahead of time. Don't expect the response to be all in your favor. Things are changing, and people like me who are talking about these ideas are not bad people or enemies or anything. We're just talking it out, and maybe hopefully he sees that before he makes enemies of us and villains of us and demonizes us, which tends to be the overreaction you get from people who first hear this and have a big channel and want to make a reaction about it. They turn us into monsters, and we're not. we're just not. Anybody who's been here and a part of this community for long enough knows we're just people. We're just people with families and lives, and we're just trying to figure it out, you know. He has some good info, but I don't go for anything he espouses, says Kanga. Well, you know, yeah, like I said, I stopped watching him years ago because, again, I got past that constant, the end times is here, the signs of the times type production stuff, you know, and it has its place, you know, but I'm just past all that myself personally. Maybe we can olive branch with the guy. Well, exactly, you know what I mean. That's what I mean, Connor. I'm not like saying let's. I don't think he's my enemy. Like I said, he was a pivotal person in the early days for my own early research. But I felt like I kind of outgrew what he was doing and went on to other things. But he's still there doing his thing, you know, and that's fine. And now he's hearing this concept for the first time. He's probably freaking out, you know. So let him have his freak out, you know. And I'm extending the olive branch now. It's like when you've calmed down and you want to actually talk about the idea, send me an email. Let's talk about it. You know, we're not your enemy. We're here waiting, ready. Say what you want about us, attack us, whatever. We don't care. It's fine. It's just, you know, it holds no weight or significance to anything. Just we're here either way. I forgive you in advance for the horrible things you might be about to say about me. Let's put it that way. It's fine. All I know is that I declare Jesus Christ as King and the Son of God, says Culticon. Exactly. I think it's great some celebrities are catching on one thread at a time. People only listen to celebs. It's a big deal. Yeah, we are seeing a lot of celebrities talking about a lot of truth topics lately. People can say, well, it's just gatekeeping stuff, you know, but at the same time, let's assume ignorance before malevolence, and maybe we can have a better life, you know. Everything is a lie, says Chris. We can go that way instead. I don't trust Rise. He has the serpent dollar bill sign on an S in his name, says Timothy Ryan. Yeah, but you know, coming from somebody who, you know, has questionable symbols and that doesn't necessarily mean the person is trying to do something bad. He may have gone my philosophy about it. I've made a symbol that represents the conspiracy, and we're going to break it down and try to understand it. So here it is broken down into individual pieces. Let's look at each piece and then put it together as a whole to understand what the conspiracy actually is. Just because you have something in your logo isn't like a tacit support of it, but it's certainly a symbol that represents the topics he's going to be talking about. So it's kind of, is it? I think this is maybe only artists see things like this. I don't know. He's a video producer, so maybe he didn't see it like. But then you get those people out there. It's like, he's bearing the Star of Remphan, so he must be a hidden satanic Talmudic Jew shill out to deceive us all. It's like, calm down. Can you not maybe just assume, you know, something a little bit more innocent before satanic malevolence? Like, that gets you nowhere. So I'm going to be forgiving with Rise for that particular thing. You know, I don't think his intentions would necessarily be just because the symbol's there, he's in tacit support of it. Then there is something to be said for the idea of, what do you mean rise exactly? Are you talking about maybe Christ rising from the dead? That would be great. Or does he mean rise like a phoenix from the ashes of the old world? You have to wonder, don't you? But don't get too carried away with that kind of stuff. Or you'll be shill hunting under every rock and wasting your time. Rather than creating a cohesive community that works, you'll be spending your time trying to break things down. It's much easier to break things than it is to build things, I would say. And it makes you paranoid as well, so just calm down a bit. I like God is waking up a wave of people, says Blixcard. It seems something like that's happening. Some kind of revival, isn't it? Some kind of spiritual things going on lately. But maybe we're in an echo chamber. Maybe we're like a tiny subsect of people screeching somewhere in some autistic corner of like, and everyone's looking at us like, these guys are crazy. Whatever, like, and like we're such a minute minority, but we think we're growing. Maybe we're being stupid. I don't think so though. I do think sincerely there's a bit of a spiritual revival going on everywhere in all peoples. Maybe not to Christianity, but people are certainly seeing a lot more and talking a lot more about topics that otherwise would have been taboo or considered wacky back in the day. I think with certainly something's happening, isn't it? We can feel it. We know. Do you know whether the transatlantic slave trade took place in the Little Season? I don't think so. Well, yes and no. I mean, we're talking the 1500s, 1600s, aren't we? Is that the time zone? It depends when you want to say the Thousand Millennial Kingdom ended and the little season began. There's like a overlap time period during that time where I don't think it's as cut and dry as Millennial Kingdom ends, little season begins at this time. I think it was a slow progression transition with the release of Satan. I think he was released, but he wasn't initially straight away in power. He had to rebuild his power. He had to stretch himself out and meet people and gather his armies, shall we say, and reorganize them and structure them. And I think there was a period of time where there was a reclaiming of things away from Christ's kingdom into his kingdom, and maybe all the unsavory actions of certain people began to happen during that time. It seems like mainly all little season stuff, doesn't it? But I couldn't say definitively when or what was going on there, or even if we can trust that narrative as well. To be honest, maybe that's a narrative created to explain why certain races of people are in certain places. Like, maybe it's a lie. Maybe all of it's a lie. We don't know when the timeline manipulation and the historical lies began or ended. Just because we've done a presentation recently on what happened in the 1st century about the 700 missing years doesn't mean they didn't play the same game in the 2nd century and add years here and take years away there and create fabricate events there. And it's probably been going on non-stop. And maybe we need to start working on to the issues with the 2nd century next and see what we can figure out. You know, it's still new. We're still looking into it. But who knows? Who honestly knows? Coming from someone who grew up believing dispensationalism, once I gave the little season an honest look in the Bible, I can't unsee that we are in fact living in the little season, says Pearl. Us currently being in the little season is scripturally sound. Futurism is not. Exactly, Pearl. That seems to be what happens, isn't it, when you actually start to look into this. It does happen. It's like Wendy's laughing about something to herself there. You're just a villain, Lou hybrid, because you're your logo, therefore Earth is a globe logic. Okay. We are a tiny subset screeching in an autistic corner, Paul, but we are growing. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if maybe I am autist. I don't know. I don't think so. My wife doesn't seem to think so, and I think she's somebody who may consider herself to be maybe somewhere on the spectrum. But I myself, I don't think I am. But I do have hyper focus, obsessive tendencies sometimes, I guess, and maybe that comes under a different umbrella of ADHD or ADD. Maybe I don't think so myself, but who knows? And I've got nothing against people who are autistic or not. I find some of the most creative people I've ever met have something. They're on the spectrum somewhere, and that's fine by me. My logo is a griffin, so I must be a satanic post-millennium Tartarian usurper. That's right. And come to the dark side. Come join me in the shill club over here, and we'll subvert the truth of culture one video at a time. Eh? I understand what you're saying, Paul. I just think he's a gatekeeper, says Timothy Ryan. Yeah, well, who knows? I don't like to go out there accusing people, because when I first started my channel, I was kind of like that. I was shill hunting, and everyone was a shill but me, you know. And you don't get, it's like channels don't get that big unless they've sold out to the devil, or you know they're a part of the system. You don't get 70,000 subscribers unless you're actually a part of the machine, you know. When I was there with my 500 subscribers, and I was out there doing that, you know, and pointing the finger, and now I am the guy with 70,000 subscribers. I'm like, oh, I was way off there. Maybe I need to give a bit more grace to other people. It's kind of you realize, okay, they're just people, and it's actually not that hard to get that many subscribers. And if you put in the work, you know, and you get lucky a few times with the algorithm, it can happen to anybody. And then suddenly everyone's calling me a shill and saying the same thing to me, and it's like what goes around comes around. You know, you got to be careful. So I'm much more forgiving of anybody in the culture. I'm not going to accuse anybody of being a shill. I'm going to assume maybe they just don't know something. But then sometimes maybe they'll keep doing stuff which keeps kind of pushing the boundary and proving, okay, you've got a bit of a controlled opposition-y thing going on there, haven't you? You know, maybe I'll just stay away from you. That's usually the best way to do it. I'm not going to go around making anti-so-and-so videos, but I'm certainly not going to give you any clout anymore. And that's a personal choice. And that's the choice we all make. We choose who to watch and who to support. It's all up to us, the audience, at the end of the day, to give the support to those we consider something useful and ignore those we consider useless. So that's the judgments we make every day by being on platforms like this. And let's leave it to God and Jesus to separate the wheat from the tares in the final harvest. It's not my job. It's not our job to discover who or who isn't a shill or a tare or, you know, a deceiver. It's not our job. Thanks, Ed Marino, for the super chat there. I really appreciate that. That's really nice. Thank you. I would really appreciate it if you would send that love to Tala, though. He's the one right now who is homeless, living in his car with his wife and 4 daughters, whom one of them is disabled, currently homeless, waiting for social housing to give them somewhere to live. He's the one who needs the money, not me. Links down below. Please go and donate anything you can. He is a brother in Christ. He is a part of our community. He is our family, and he is a human in need. And this is what we do. We're Christians, are we not? We help the poor, those who need the help. We give it to them. And if I can't use this community for that purpose, then what's the point? What is the point of any of this? It's no good having this if we can't help people. So let's do that. Go and support Tala, please. Send him the donations and the money. Don't super chat me, though I do appreciate it. I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you so much. I can mean that channel is just not stepping over any lines to get them cancelled. What does that mean, Redstorm? I don't know what we're talking about there. My wife, lol, you are not autistic. I, on the other hand. I think all new Red Divergence is a spiritual thing. Maybe not. Who knows? I kicked in for Tal, praying for his family to find shelter and abundance of blessings. Thank you, MP. I appreciate that. And I'm sure he'll appreciate it too. Old World Florida is a Christian. Old World Doc is great aside from not including Jesus, says Mish. I'll check it out. I reserve judgment until I've watched the thing. I haven't watched the thing, so I don't know how I have any opinion to give one way or the other right now. But once I've watched the thing, I'll give an opinion on it. Let God sort the shills out, says Steve Gower. Exactly, that's my philosophy on it. Maybe Pangea broke up very recently, maybe causing the mud flood. Explains a lot. Similar buildings and old trees in Florida and Africa. Very rare trees. Yeah, I think when the tribulation event came upon us, when Rome was in full swing and its tendrils went out to every corner of the earth, I believe that's when everything was separated and split apart and spread out more, and where we got our oceans from and all these type of things, which caused mass sinking of islands and the re-emergence of islands and the mud floods as a result, and the washing away of all the people and the full reset. People asked me the other day, like, where are all the bodies then, bro? If everything was buried, why aren't we unearthing like millions of skeletons along with these buildings? It's like, what's going on there? Got you. And it's like, well, if it was a massive flood, many of those people probably got washed into the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. And for all we know, the bottom of the Atlantic and the Pacific is nothing but a giant wasteland of skulls and bones. For all we know, like, it could just be gone. Then you got all the skulls and bones that have been perfectly preserved and polished underneath these catacombs everywhere. It's kind of like, there's plenty of explanations for why we don't find bodies anywhere. When you've got, like, literally islands, continents ripping apart and spreading out across the sea, then just like torrents of waves are just going over them like that, like 60 foot, 100 foot, maybe like 20, like 200 meters high, like ocean just barreling over full cities. It's like, yeah, that's going to rip up the mud, probably tear out some buildings and bury some along the way, and all the bodies are just going to flow off with it, you know, into wherever it settles. It's kind of like, you don't understand. What do you think tribulation means? Like, barely any flesh survives. There's nothing left at the end of it. Just a few scraggler survivors who barely made it by the skin of their teeth. And then Jesus resurrects the saints to then establish a new kingdom on earth and help the survivors as best they can reestablish some kind of semblance of order. And then the 1,000-year reign of Christ begins. Reset. Full reset. What do you think a reset is? Like, I don't know. But yeah, continents splaying apart and flying all over the place, becoming what we know today. I can imagine that was exactly what happened. I think that's how Rome managed to dominate the whole earth so easily. I think it's because everything was much closer. It was much easier to get to places at that time. And that's why Roman architecture is everywhere. And I think what we call Tartarian architecture, I'm starting to realize the reason it's covered in all these like pagan gods is because it was Roman architecture and they worshipped pagan gods. Like, and I think it got repurposed after the mud flood, Armageddon, Judgment Day, tribulation event, and the establishment of Jesus' reign. It explains in Daniel's vision that the saints will be given these places. The meek will inherit the earth, including all these Roman buildings. And I think people are saying Christ wouldn't allow that during his reign. It's kind of like, well, maybe he did. But don't waste a good roof over people's heads. Don't waste the resources that are around. Repurpose them. Use them for something else. Then amidst all the Roman architecture, people began to build their own new architecture in the Gothic style. And they're the Millennial Kingdom buildings, set apart from the Romanesque style buildings, which scatter everywhere. So it's a mix of both. You got the Roman remains that still have the pagan gods all over them as a monumental reminder of an ancient evil that once dominated the earth. And then you've got the new glorified godly buildings scattered within them and around them, which glorify a new world covered in saints and angels and gods and depictions of Christ and his sacrifice and all these other things. You know what I mean? It's kind of, you got two worlds that live simultaneously. But just because their buildings remain doesn't suddenly mean it's not a millennial reign of Christ. It's like, a building's a building. Why are you giving it so much power? Why are you... the way I see it is, if you fear a sculpture that much, it's akin to idol worship. It's no different. You're giving power to a dead item just as much as those who actually worship the idols did. It's kind of get over it. It's art. Art's art. It's a reminder of the history of the past. I don't think the people living at that time cared that it had some statues of some naked women and gods on them when they had to get away from the cold. Like, I don't think it mattered. And I don't think that suddenly made them go, well, I'm going to start worshipping these gods, rather than realize Jesus Christ is in control now. We are living after his tribulation. I don't think they forgot that easily. And then they built their own buildings in a new style, a new, clearly inspired style, which we call Gothic. So, you know, there's some thoughts on that suddenly. But yeah, Pangea, that inspired it, definitely. I think everything was closer together, and tribulation tore it all apart. Absolutely. If you really get humble, you will see that you don't know anything. True. I mean, I speculate a lot on here. I have fun speculating. I'm not saying I know everything. I really don't know everything. But we do have fun. Just thinking out loud. So I'm an out loud thinker. Don't take my word for anything. I think you're all along with me having these similar thoughts. And we're trying to formulate an image with what we've got, you know. And this is what I've just said. There is a relatively new take on it all. We assumed all these buildings must have been built during Christ's kingdom. But maybe some of them are just leftovers of the previous beast system. And then Christ began to build, and his people began to build around them new buildings. And build it out even more, and use the infrastructure that was already in place, the aqueducts, the pipes, the canals that were built by Rome. Why waste them? They work. Like, if it's not broken, don't fix it type of philosophy. And let's do what we can with the people we've got and the resources we have to make this a place worth living. And like I said, there's the prophecy, the Daniel 5 beast prophecy. It mentions there that the rulers, the kings of this empire, the beast empire, the fifth beast kingdom, will have to watch their empire be ruled by the saints. So that's Rome being ruled by Christians. Like, that's what they had to watch, you know, if not through the Byzantine Empire that came afterwards. which is Rome, is it not? It's very Romanesque, but it's all Christian. And then obviously you've got the Roman architecture everywhere, but you've got people who are now all Christian building monasteries everywhere as well in the new Gothic style. Like the kingdom was given over to the meek. The meek inherited the earth after tribulation. Simple. It's really simple, really, and it's biblically grounded. I'm excited. I'm excited to have these ideas and think about these things and formulate these images. Jeff Nugent, I find most of the people in here are genuine, and I'm happy to have found your channel, Paul. God bless you all. It's crazy. I've lived such a messed up life, and I'd never have said that 10 years ago. Well, Jeff, thanks for being here. I really appreciate your contribution. Welcome to the community. If you guys want to get more involved with this community, there is a Telegram you can go to. We've got lots of topics to talk about on there. Just go to the description, click read more, and there's loads of links available for you to send you to all the places where I am, including Telegram. And on Telegram, we have a big community there, and we talk about lots of things. I'm in there all the time. We do memes, we do relationships, we do little season, clowns. We've got a general chat in there. We've got a health and medicine section. We've got a home education section. My announcement page is there, where I make all sorts of announcements and share some silly comments every now and then that people send me. And we have fun, and I'm active in there. A lot of people are active in there. It's a great, solid community. Great for fellowship. We have a Bible study in there as well. Go check it out. Come and join in, guys. Now, I'm come to the end of the show now. I've been going for over 2 hours. You know what I'm like. Almost 2.5 hours. Thanks for being here, guys. I really appreciate it. Last reminder, go check out Rye's channel from Codega's Codex of Curiosities. That's his podcast, and his channel name links in the description of this video. He was a great guest. Nice guy. Really appreciate him coming on to do that with me and sharing a bit of his story on Patreon. There is an after show chat I did with him a month ago available on there. If you haven't seen that already, to my patrons out there, go and check that out as well. And also please help Tala. This is the last chance I get to say this, but I have to say it. He needs help. His family is homeless, living in a car. He has no home. It's freezing. It's winter. It's getting colder. It's raining. There was just a storm in Washington where he is that just literally was a nightmare. It's getting worse. The weather's getting worse, and he has no home. So he's living in his car with his family, wife. So there's 6 of them, him and his wife and 4 girls. One of them's disabled. They're living day to day as best they can. They need shelter, and they have to pay for hotels, motels, B&Bs, whatever they can get until social housing finds a place for them. We don't know how long that's going to take. Any donation you can give them will help them just keep a roof over their head and food in their bellies, which is all anybody really needs. So let's just do what we can as a community to help a brother in Christ and his family here stay on their feet and just keep going. He's a huge contributor to this community. He's been here for years talking about these topics. He's been on my channel. I've done an interview with him. You can go and check it out. We have talked about the little season together, and I consider him a friend, and we need to help. So please help as much as you can. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. And as always, God bless. Are you tired of the same old conversations? Do you often find yourself struggling to know what to say? Are you over discussing the news, sports ball, or the weather? It's time to put boring discussions behind you by leaving a copy of The Nephilim Look Like Clowns on your coffee table, your toilet, your local library, mother's car, boss's office desk, or that person you really like's bed instead.
What the hell is this?
Oh, that? Why, it's just a book about how the modern costume of a clown is a caricature of ancient giants and modern demons.
Stay away from my children.
This is a conversation you can't wait to have. My family used to think I was crazy, but thanks to The Nephilim Look Like Clowns, they know I'm crazy. The Nephilim Looks Like Clowns. It's no laughing matter.